17th, 2020, Common Council meeting in the chambers. We are going to start off with resolution number 5. It's a resolution in honor of our essential workers in the city of Utica, New York. This is sponsored by Councilman Moody. I believe it could be by the full council.
I don't have any problem with it.
I'd be happy to go on board with that. I'm good with going on board with that as well. Any discussion?
Talk about moving shirt. Talk like a shirt.
We're not discussing that. We're discussing resolution number 5. Okay. We'll move on to resolution number 7. It's a resolution approving the traffic ticket diversion program intermunicipal agreement between Oneida County and the city of Utica. Does anyone have any problems or questions regarding this?
Yes.
Judge Garamond? Could you please speak into the mic?
The problem I had with that, talking to Chief King, in the fourth paragraph, it says that we could have done by the county. I don't understand what we would have done by the county for the states that they made. I can see where we then identify our officers. And the state troopers are involved in that, or the county and the sheriff's department involved in that.
Dave Short
has joined the meeting.
Yeah, the answer is, I think one of the company, I don't know who told me, said the corporation council answer was, we always do that. What? Why should we just identify another government? It's our traffic. Yeah. I mean, they're going to do this program and all. That's the only thing I have a comment on. It's fine, but I'm just saying that what came up with me.
Corporate counsel, are you available, Marina? Marina?
It doesn't appear that some of you are dialed in.
Oh, we could stick it in committee.
During a council meeting, during the meeting with Marina, we did talk about the fact that this is normal practice. I believe you have a hand raised. Is there something you would like?
I did do research on this with a lot, and basically this whole issue with this is that the DA is bringing up their manpower in the traffic office, and basically it's a handout. We're getting revenues from it. I guess if we want revenues, we have to vote for it as is. There's no form on it. There's no template. There's nothing the legislators can vote on. So, but they said this is the way it's got to be. I do agree with the judge that the identifying clause we should add the Utica to it, but that's up to the council. But as it stands, if we don't vote for this the way it sits, the county may not give us the funding that we can receive from the new program. I have no problem voting for it as it says at this time, and we can always amend the contract later on in the future if we find any type of loss occurring from this new contract.
Just to add, when talking to corporate counsel, they felt comfortable with this, and they felt the city was protected and that they were happy with it.
As a common council, we're responsible, right?
It has to be voted on either exactly the way it is or brought back to the drawing board. And corporate counsel did feel comfortable with the way that it is proposed to us.
But if we amended it to include Utica, it's no good?
Yeah, you could amend it because within the county's our officers, there's an officer in the county that everyone. That was the way the legislators understood it. So
They're the lead agency.
right.
So currently we get no money at all.
No, currently we do get funding from the court system, traffic court system.
Right.
But the DA's office is changing the format because of the strength of the office now. And they're freeing up the office on these traffic ticket issues. So if we want to any revenue whatsoever, we have to vote on it.
But currently, right now, if somebody debarments something down, we get nothing, correct?
So the program started, they're going through that conversion, and I don't know if we're getting the revenue, but the program is in place. And
Every municipality, township shining a board on it.
Just going by what I wrote, read it. When they debarm anything down, we would get nothing. So it's like a no-brainer for us.
Correct,
Huh?
correct.
Right, okay.
just make sure you turn, I know it's gonna be a pain, make sure we're turning our mics on. I just got a text from the camera guy, they said they can't do, because we are talking on our mics. Yep.
Okay.
No,
Just when you're speaking,
when you're
guys.
speaking, turn it on, when you're not, turn it off. Huh?
I don't think the income matters that much, it's really not that lot of money, but I think it's good for the person who violated, that they go, they get, they get stopped for whatever reason, a stop sign or speeding or whatever, and they go to the diversion program, and they take this course, it would allow them to reduce the points that they receive to get the ticket.
Right.
So I think it helps personnel who are, not obeying the law, so they can learn what it's like, and hopefully it won't happen again. And it does hit them in the pocket a little bit, which is not a bad thing. So now they'll maybe obey the law the next time around.
Yeah, the income very
And speeding or running around or whatever.
The income minimum for the whole, for every municipality in this district is on $38,000. Right.
I've asked the deputy to add to it, but
I mean, like I would say, is in the past, when the equipment violation, fire equipment violation would go to the state, in this case, every traffic summons, they would get a portion of this fine that they agreed to. Can't speak up to last more.
Guaranteed.
Okay. There's no alternative.
Right now,
No one, I mean, for the most part, unless there's an egregious violation, no one's going to court. So if you don't pass this, less or zero. I prefer less. Zero.
I think it's a no-brainer.
yeah, I have no problem.
I'm good with
it.
okay.
But thank you, Judge, thank you.
So keep Mr. Bell to this property, and that's you.
Understood.
So, that's the only, that's a good program. I agree, it's a good program. Right way to go. I just don't understand that clause, but if it doesn't bother you, so be it, okay with me.
All right, the next one is resolution number 1, is the Commissioner of Fees for Alma Music. All of the paperwork checks out for Commissioner of Fees.
Heather Mowat
Anyone have
has left the meeting.
any issues regarding?
Thank you, sir, for being diligent.
Yeah, thank you. The next one is resolution number 2. It is the engineering planning grant. Do we want to read this through now, or does anyone have any questions regarding it? You want me to read it?
I don't know if you can hear me. Paul Romano's on the line from Rambo Engineering.
Okay.
You can hear me?
you clear?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just representing the engineering department, helping out here with Debbie Day. This was a grant that we secured with Debbie Day on a study for Baloo and Nail Creeks. It's a study that's now required under the city's combined sewer overflow speedies permit, discharge permit. And it has to be done irregardless, and anything under the speedies permit obligations that is one thing this engineering department always does, is try to get state grant funding to at least fund portion of it. And the grant for this, it's a $62,500 study. It's 85% covered by the state. The state's covering $50,000 of it. The study is basically looking at discharges into Blue and Nail Creek. Bacteria levels in the Mohawk River are high during combined sewer overflows events during wet weather. And there's some evidence that there's some bacteria levels around the outfall of Blue and Nail Creek that are occurring in dry weather. So the purpose of the study is to understand why that might be happening. And so the study will be looking at those creeks to see if there's any discharges from sanitary sewers that are not going to the wrong place, basically going into the creeks. Looking at if there's any dry weather overflows into these creeks. And I say creeks, these creeks, most of these two creeks are basically stormwater conduits through the city, and they're not open channel to the very end of the the very end of the run, and then they're open channel to the Mohawk. So basically a stormwater conduit. But be looking into these conduits to see, what might be the sources of the sewage. So we'll be looking at, again, if there's illicit discharges, if there's blockages, if there's sediment issues that are causing the indication of sewage during dry weather. So that's the purpose of the study. And the resolution that's before the Common Council does three things. It allows the mayor to sign the state assistant grant agreement. It obligates the city for the match portion. Oh, I said 80, it's 20% match. I'm sorry, I said 85, I said 15% before. 20% match portion. And it also clarifies that it's being a study and it's exempt from seeker. So it doesn't require a seeker negative declaration resolution. So that's what the resolution does, and I don't know if there's any questions.
Question, Councilman Miola? You have the floor.
I just had one, you said matching grants, do you know what it comes from, anybody?
It's really hard to hear because of the echoing.
Where this coming from? Do you have any idea?
Where it's coming from?
Yeah, you said
Yeah.
matching grants.
I think the question, and I'm sorry, I apologize, it's really difficult. I think the question is where these bacteria sources might be coming from.
No, the question is where are the funds coming from? What account, if you happen to know?
Oh, it would be because this is related to combined sewers in the city. The city should be able to pay for this under the sewer fund.
Okay, coming out of our sewer fund revenues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Councilman Moody?
It's just because I don't know, but is Nail and Blue Creek all within the city limits?
Yeah, they are. Blue starts up by the reservoirs, the southern reservoirs. That's really the headwaters of Blue, and it comes out near this treatment plant. So that's 100% in the city of Utica, and Nail really is 100% in the city of Utica too. It does have a small tributary that extends up through Calvary Cemetery and into New Hartford, but that's just a small tributary that's actually not even part of Nail, but I just mentioned that it's its main tributary. But the Nail Creek proper is all within the city.
Thank you. Any other questions? We'll move forward. The next is resolution number 3. It is an appointment to the City of Utica Youth Common Council for Diego Landaverde.
I would ask, Councilman Burmaster, Spring Street is in West Utica, if you'd be willing to talk to this. It's great.
I got a couple of questions for you, one on these. There's nobody from South Utica, nobody from North Utica. There is? Where? No, there's nobody from North Utica. North Drive.
Olivia.
All I have is, Baxton Spring, Mohawk, Jefferson.
She's 15, it's resolution 15. That one came in later.
Who's the South Utica one?
I don't know that we have South Utica, but I will say.
Yeah, that's.
No.
No.
Now, another question I have, are they all Proctor, are they, Notre Dame or something, charter school?
They're all Proctor.
Well, you got Notre Dame as well, you also have charter school, so. You know, you gotta look at the sampling of everybody, this looks like a group within a group. I think I know one of them, I think we should meet these people before we actually talk to them or appoint them.
Well, Stephanie sent out an email to everybody, to the entire council, when these interviews are gonna be happening. It was sent out to the entire council. All the council was invited to be on that call.
Well,
And if you remember, when we first did the youth council, given COVID and all that stuff, recruitment is not difficult, but it limits the ability that you have to get into school and recruit all the people. When we first did the youth council in, a few years back, it started off with, a subset of people, and then when the school year, started, of course, you had more people interested to qualify, but, these young people are interested, ready to go, and so, I thought it best that having met with them, the friends of another council members could have been on the call. And community members, as outlined by the resolution that we passed, so community members were involved to select these persons, interview these persons, and these are the names that ultimately came to the council per the resolution we passed. And, I'm certainly willing, if there's South Utica or others, and I know Stephanie will be willing as well, to do that recruitment and get those folks on board. But these are the names that were, after all the applications that came through, and, they want to get to work, and I think it'd be good if we can just appoint them to let them do that work.
I think you need to have a sample of Notre Dame as well as the charter, not just Proctor. And also, you have South Utica, do you know Olivia Tobias, North Utica? No. You don't know her? No. I mean, they're gonna come to you to lean on you a little bit. Know who you are.
I couldn't agree more. We should meet the people before. I didn't receive the email, so I don't know if people got emails wrong or, I just didn't receive it.
May I say something? If there was an email and I missed it, I'm sorry about it, because I would have definitely been on a call and would have wanted to meet people too. But
Agreed.
if I'm taking your word that you sent it out, so therefore, you know, I'm not gonna give you a hard time about it, but Councilman, Livingston makes a lot of sense. If I am a supporting person, I would at least like to meet them. I don't know, I'm sure she's a great person, but I didn't really think of it that way. So, I mean, can we just table this stuff and then have these people come to our next meeting?
Councilman Miola has the floor now.
In my comments, would you mind if each person could give the phone number to the council member and they can contact us and we can contact them? And just meet when we just have a quick chat with them, they sit down with them, know who representing. Is that be okay?
I'm sure that we will, open to that without question.
So we have a-
I also think we all, you should ask some Notre Dame.
Councilman, how many actually just?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. Definitely would, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Was there a lot more than what you showed?
Yeah, then they narrowed it down.
Right.
So again,
We got a lot, which is a good thing.
Right.
And I'm very happy that these people are interested in what's going on in the city. We want to make a commitment, which is great. I agree. I think if we hold off one more meeting maybe by the next meeting, we'll at least get a chance to talk to the 5 that you have chosen. And if you could, send us the emails of the others who did apply and give us a chance just to take a look at it. Obviously, I trust your decision. I don't have a problem, you know, I don't have a problem pointing out, but just to make sure that everything's done forward and just have a little conversation. That's all it takes.
absolutely, maybe the question I have.
Real quick before we go on, make sure we're all speaking right into those mics. We gotta be right on the mics.
Thank you,
I
Mike.
just keep getting text messages. No one can hear us.
Councilman Moody,
So we got,
Councilman Moody, can I ask, being an alumni from Notre Dame, did you receive any application from Notre Dame? Because I do have a relationship with the principal at Notre Dame, and if you didn't, I could make a phone call and maybe they didn't know about this.
I don't think we did, but I do want to say this too. All applications and resumes and essay responses were sent out to the entire council by our clerk. Now that is a fact, without ever being sent out. So I just want to say that, yes, I don't have any problem. Again, we're in COVID, so it's not like we're ramping up to do a whole lot of stuff tomorrow. So I have no problem at all.
And I have no problem with you did either, and if they were sent out, shame on you for not responding at all.
I have to say, Brown,
I'm sorry,
I have a lot of something to say.
Councilman
As
Wood.
long as we get this done by September, school starts, and all that good stuff, we got time. Like I said, we need to have a, broad base of individual people from different areas, different economic backgrounds, and everything, people work together as a whole, not just inner city people. That's what I like to see. Go ahead, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I make the motion, put it in committee.
So I want to,
just so it was clear, we're not in the main meeting. So
I know.
Yeah.
Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
So it is resolution 5, which is Burmaster. It is resolution 4, which is Cornhill. It is resolution 5, which is Councilman Young. Resolution 6, which is Ward 6. So, features, right? And we have, I think the only one that is not is, downtown.
I actually have,
And I think it is when it's just on the border,
I actually have someone who I know who lives downtown that might be very interested in it.
So I think it's only downtown and South Utica. So it is, first is not in the city, it's only. And the second thing, we absolutely can put it in, we willing to put it in Councilman, Mark Williamson committee as Parks, Youth and Recreation Chair.
That doesn't go on.
I'm gonna go in there.
It goes to the government. It goes to the government.
The youth
So,
council fund will go in the government?
Yeah.
Either way, it's a committee as a whole, right?
Yeah, every single committee's got every single person on it, so you're good.
so through 7 and what is the other one? 15. And 13 will be put into committee. 15.
So what's the total amount of? How many,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
well, we got 9, I mean, we could actually, you could put it in for more.
Yeah.
So how are we gonna go about doing
Did the original legislation dictate how many people had to serve on the council?
It said 9, it said, and it emphasized the attempt to try to get one from every district.
Okay, so we do have 3 more
Absolutely.
spots to go,
it?
that's
So
all.
how do we go about?
Absolutely, yeah. If you contact them, then there's an application, the clerk has the application, and we depend on.
I will work on recruiting somebody from that.
Absolutely.
Well, there's also no one in South Houston, so maybe, I don't know, that'd be great.
Contractor probably.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is resolution number 8. It's a resolution to amend Common Council Rules of Order, section 3-2-59. This is from Councilmember Friend. Would you like to discuss this?
Sure, so I mean, I don't have much more to say other than what I said at the last 2 meetings. It seems to me that there's been a pattern that's developed recently whereby a lot of legislation is coming to us very much at the last minute. I find that very frustrating. I assume others of you find that frustrating. I also assume that it's frustrating to the clerks. So I just want to re-invoke a stricter version of of what everybody calls the Thursday rule. So I do want to, I will amend this on the floor. I just want to I'm going to rewrite E a little bit, just to make it a little bit more streamlined and clear. It'll have the same impact that I expected all along, but I am just going to slightly rework the wording of E.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question for the clerks. Now, at our last meeting, when Councilperson Friend brought this up, we had a, corporation council was on the phone, and they made a word to us that they will try to work on not be having stuff at the last minute. So can I ask you, for this meeting, how was stuff, anything from corporation council done late? Did you have everything you needed on time? Or was there a pattern of late legislation again?
I didn't receive anything from corporation council that came late, but there were pieces that came in afterwards.
But not, this is directed at the corporation council, correct?
Well, that's. No, it's, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, those, at the last two meetings, the specific instances there were instances that came down from corporation council, but I don't see this legislation is just directed at corporation council. It's directed across the board, all departments.
Okay, because my question, my thinking is, they gave us their word that they wouldn't do that, there were problems, and until they did something again wrong like that, I don't think this is a need for this, but if you're saying it's not just for the corporation council, we could look at that.
Right, I mean, also part of what happened at that last meeting is that it was made very clear that, I think it was Maria and or Heather Mowat had reported that they had taken this issue to the mayor and that everybody agreed that they wouldn't do this anymore. So all I'm doing here is codifying and making explicit and making explicit and codifying an agreement that we have in place. I always think that that's very helpful. So we don't have to remember what we promised, but we have to just look.
And if I can, when talking to our council regarding the piece of legislation that brought and the mayor, they explicitly said that, you know, the pieces that are coming down are not things that need to be reported on. They're not things that need to be voted on, that are to be discussed and either put into committee or, you know, figured out when you would like to discuss it. So they will no longer be sending us anything down that has to be acted on immediately.
I'd like to have Mr. Burrell speak. He is corporation counsel, and it does say in there that under emergencies or special circumstances, we can waive the rule. So if it comes out with a red stamp on it, we know it's an emergency, and we'll waive the rule. But go ahead.
No, thank you, I appreciate it. So I know what happened last 2 weeks ago. Katie Hart was on that point. So we started this new process pursuant to the chief of staff, the budget director, where they wanted to streamline how legislation came down easier for everyone. And our office, for better or for worse, was in charge of getting all this information down here. Okay. I'll be quite frank, it's not working for us because we're now going through every piece of legislation, and it's actually quite a task. And it's assembling it, putting it down. There's changes in some of this legislation being sent down and gets sent back. So we're going to have to probably rework that again the way we're doing it. The whole idea was to make it simpler, send it down so everyone had it ahead of time. That didn't happen in that particular case. I think the reason, I think because there was a change in the actual legislation that we thought went down, it didn't go down. So that was a mistake on that one. But again, whatever you obviously want to codify what you're doing there, I think that's fine to do. But this may change again because it's not working for us as a corporation.
Thank you, but you don't object to this, like, this isn't gonna make that, maybe, the things that you wanna change in order to work better for your own office, this is not going to interfere with that in any way.
That's fine.
Thank you very much.
So, I mean, whatever you all want to do with that, it's up to you. I'm just saying we're trying to improve that process ourselves and trying to extradite ourselves actually out of that process a little bit more and go back to the old way, but we'll see how. Okay.
So, can I ask a question? So, can you, council person, can you explain to me what this will do?
What this
legislation?
What this will do, this will require that departments submit legislation far enough in advance that we all have the adequate time to read it, digest it, vet it, think about it, research it when possible or when necessary, etc.
And so what happens? So what happens if it comes after the Sunday, after the Thursday rule? We're not able to use that no more.
Then we would have to. And one of the things to remember about our rules of order is that we always reserve the right to waive any of our rules of order in any circumstances. So if something, and I certainly recognize, we would all recognize that there are going to be instances when legislation, there's going to be something that happens at the last minute, we need some legislation, and we need it in a hurry. And so we can always waive our rule. So, we can always waive the rule under any circumstance for any reason that we collectively deem necessary. And that is no less true here. So if Corporation Council, sends us something down on Monday and the legislation is such that we want a written explanation of why is this urgent, and they say to us, well, here's the thing, and it's very hard for me to come up with a good hypothetical example, but here's this thing that happened over the weekend that changed something, and now we need a law quickly to remedy this situation, and we don't want to wait 3 weeks until the next meeting, and then we simply have to waive the Thursday rule.
So,
It's easy peasy.
So let's, so,
what's the difference? Again, so we vote for this, and I don't have no problem with it, but to me, it makes no sense, because you have it, but if all of a sudden, tomorrow, and I'll use you for example, and don't like today, you got a last minute legislation for something about a committee for a coach, okay? All right, so if we think that's important, we can waive it anyway, so what is the purpose of it?
The current rules of order exempt Corporation Council from what's called the Thursday rule,
So this is about corporation council.
and it exempts the law department.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's about a
Not
number.
about corporate
The current rules of order that we voted for in January exempt a number of departments, Corporation Council, the police department, anybody want to help me out, and the other departments that were exempted? DPW. In essence, it kind of exempted almost every department
It
that ever
also says in any other legislation.
Right.
So everything was exempted.
The new version of the Thursday rule, in essence, wipes out the Thursday rule. There is no real Thursday rule anymore. So I'm trying to reinvent it.
can I say something? I think it's a good idea, but it really doesn't have any teeth the way it sits, because if something comes by, we're gonna vote on it anyway, so we just wanna do it.
That's my whole point.
That's,
That's my whole point.
can I have a floor just one more?
But I'm still talking.
I know, I'm just asking the chair if you're talking. Thank you.
I mean, Celeste, I mean, explain to me where the teeth are, if we can vote on anything when it comes to them.
That's all I'm at.
So if corporate counsel is reworking things and is planning on, when do you feel like you'll have something to bring back down to us that will work smoother, or that you think would work smoother?
It's a discussion I have to have with the mayor and the chief of staff, the budget director, how they want to handle this coming down in the future. I would probably say at least a couple of weeks, to be quite honest with you.
So about a month would be
Oh,
fair.
that'd be more than fine.
So
I understand your issue that.
I'm not sure what I need the law department to rework in order for us to be able to say, hey, fellas, we'd like to see things as far in advance.
I don't think it's about reworking it. I was just asking a personal question
Oh, okay.
to see what, because for me, if they're reworking it, it's not something that I'll support, because if they're already working on it, I would rather hear from that department what they need and how it's going to make it more efficient for them to bring it down to us. So that's my personal opinion.
So that's a good idea, I just don't see where it's gonna help us.
President Galimi.
In the sense right now. I was still talking, in the sense as it is. But I mean, if you wanna keep working on it and you figure out, you know, because right now it doesn't have any teeth. Because we're all gonna sit here and decide what we wanna do anyway. So,
President Galimi has the floor, and then Councilman Miola.
well, I asked her a question. I did ask Councilman a question. Sort of, where's Jeopardy, I guess, say it in a question.
I mean, in a sense, I mean, I know what you mean by teeth, because but these are just our rules of order, which means that they're just resolution. I can't ordain it. I'm not going to be issuing Mr. Borrell an appearance ticket. You're welcome. No, Ed actually has just volunteered to actually arrest him.
He's a walking misdemeanor. I mean,
It's
So,
24/7.
I mean, you're right, Jack, in general, right, that there's no real teeth, because in the end, it's up to us anyway, and we have the discretion to waive the rule or not waive the rule. We can always waive the rule, and we might, in some future scenario, disagree over whether this is timely enough or urgent enough, et cetera. So in that sense, you're right, It's always still in our discretion. But it just seems to be very problematic to write a Thursday rule under the current rules of order. The Thursday rule is written to be non-existent, because it exempts nearly every department who ever sent us anything. So
I think once again, we are having a discussion. So I think once again, I don't think I could vote on it right now, other than it's just a piece of paper right now, it doesn't have any teeth. I think maybe we could somehow, maybe we could fix it, whereas, I don't know how you fix it, because it's just gonna affect us, we're gonna decide, because this is a council that has to be flexible. You know, we don't, but listen, when that came down last night, you know, from the law department, we could have nixed it. We could have nixed it. So we did have the authority to nix it right there and then. So this really doesn't give us any more authority or any less authority.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about the teeth, and that's the teeth thing, the authority, you know, doesn't give us any more or less authority. That's the teeth argument you're making, and I see the wisdom of that. This is saying to the departments in the city administration, this is clearly laying out our expectations.
Well, then let's make it a resolution.
It is a resolution.
No, I mean, I guess.
It is a resolution, right? It's not an ordinance.
Okay, I can go, if you want it to be a resolution, I don't have any problem.
All of our
It's just,
rules of
you
order,
know, it's a warning order. I think you could say.
all of our rules of order are resolutions,
Right,
am I
right.
correct? Thank you.
But,
It is a resolution, but it clearly lays out our expectations for the department to feed us legislation.
I guess. I don't have any problem with it. Like I said, it's not gonna change anything.
Thank you.
Council President, you have the floor.
You guys did go back and forth on it, but I was just gonna say, in reference to the teeth situation, this version in this resolution of 3259 has a similar amount of teeth, I'll call it, as you said, as the original, section 3259 that was in the rules of order, throughout, many of our couple last terms in my first term. When I arrived in 2016, a similar situation was going on where we were waiving the Thursday rule constantly. Now, even though they didn't have teeth, it specified a process that we had to follow, and if the process was followed, there were no arguments or differences to be had once legislation came to the council. And what I was able to do back then, even though there was no technical teeth, because it could always be waived, I went and sat with the different departments and said, hey, rather than doing what we're doing, and having to deal with waiving this rule all the time, this is what our rules of order are specified to do. And let's all start in a more timely way, get into a cadence of, if you want something to be dealt with, bring the legislation down to the council the Thursday prior to a regular meeting, and the council will be okay with hearing that. And if you do that, that's what was asked for in their rules of order. They can't give you trouble and say, we're not gonna hear this because you got it 2 months time. So while there's no like ordinance or local law saying people will be sanctioned if you didn't bring it down, the rule that had no exceptions had enough teeth to make the process work. The rule with exceptions is working the way it's working now and causing trouble for everyone, not just the clerks, not just the council people, not just corporation council, everyone. So it does stand to be readdressed. I'm not saying it has to be the exact one, but I really do think that even though this seemingly has no teeth, because it could still be waived, it sure has a lot more than the one that's currently in place. Okay?
but we're still gonna put it in committee, and you don't have enough time to read it.
I'm just saying, from, you know,
It's no different than the last one, and,
okay.
so, what it is, we're gonna do what we're gonna do.
Councilman Miola, you have the floor.
Basically, colleagues, the teeth, it's simple, you still have the teeth. You can say yes, you can say no, you can say put it on the table, you can say put in committee, your teeth are always there. The only thing that this does do is ask the administration to give us a little bit more notification. That's all this is doing, it's about notification, it's about seeing that piece of legislation, as Councilwoman Friend said, early enough where we can do homework on it, do some research on it. But other than that, that's all this legislation will do. I know corporate counsel is going to do the best they could in the future to help us out with that, and so are all the department heads to do the best they could to get that legislation to us as soon as possible in its final form. I'd like to thank you guys for putting those steps in motion. I understand that because of COVID-19, all of us been under a lot of strings, and I'm looking forward to seeing legislation earlier in the not coming months. Thank you.
Councilman DeBrango, you have the floor.
So I should make a great point, and I agree with you 100%. When you get legislation 5 to 10 minutes before we start our meeting. It's just unfair. You're right, we don't have a chance to go through it, ask the questions we want to ask in a timely manner. So I'm going to agree with you. The piece of legislation does not bother me because either way we could not act on it that evening, or we could hold it, or we could act on it. So, I don't mind this piece of legislation. I don't think it hurts anybody. I think it just puts a little pressure on the department heads to get it in a timely manner. I agree with you. When you get late legislation, you're scrambling, you're trying to read it, you want to ask questions, and sometimes it's just not enough time. So whatever the council wants to do, I'm okay with passing it tonight. You want to hold it up and work on it a little bit more. Maybe we could put something in and amend it within 24 hours of the date of our council meeting. At least gives us a little bit more time, but, whatever you want to do, but I'm okay with this. Just want to let you know.
So the general feeling on this is to bring it up this
I'm gonna
evening?
bring this up this evening. But can I just address one more point very quickly? That key question, part of what it says, and I am gonna slightly amend it on the floor to make it to be a little bit better, is B will say, requests to waive this rule must be accompanied by a written explanation of why such a waiver is necessary. So it's not exactly teeth, but it is sending the message, when you want a waiver, you will have to justify the need for that waiver. And I think that will help to provide an incentive. If you have to publicly state why you're sending this in on a Monday, it provides one with an incentive to have a good reason, right? So it's not exactly, it's like baby teeth in a sense, but it's a little bit more than just, hey, pretty please do it this way. It's saying, when you don't do it, we're only going to waive this rule when you've actually done this extra step now. We want a memo that says, hey, there's this thing happened over the weekend, we need a new law before more people.
All right, can that be email?
Oh, sure, you need a memo? Sure.
Bring it to Jeff once.
The judge has the floor.
Make sure you're on the mic. You're right on the mic. All right, right on there. Yep.
Well, the interesting thing that Councilman French just,
I think you got a white mustache.
almost done. Is this working? Is this working?
Yes,
You're right on
get a
it.
little closer, get a little closer.
All right, the interesting word is that when you write legislation, and it isn't specific, and when it says that all communication legislation is at a regular meeting of the town council shall be submitted by, and it says request to waive the rules shall be considered an emergency session and such request made in writing. Well, who sends the majority of legislation that violates the rule? You do. Even I do. And are you saying by this legislation, without any other explanation, that Councilman Williamson, or George Leader, or anyone here, Ms. Fred, sent something in, and it's going to be over the time that says this is addressing, you're going to have to write to everybody here and explain why you sent it in on Monday rather than Thursday? Because when you make a rule, it applies to you too, unless you exclude you. I mean, you can't assume anything. So I think that, I think when you think about it, there's two things that should have happened. That the rule that currently exists should have been sort of attached to this so you could get a comparison about what you want to change anyways. That's number one. Number two, when it says that you all have to, including you, have to give a written explanation of why you sent this in late. Are you going to prove that? I don't think you are, because I just don't think you're going to prove that, and I don't think that that's what you thought about, but that's what I think about, because that's how my brain is. So unless you exclude yourselves and you pass this, you're supposed to send in a written explanation of why you were late. And that's going to be a lot of other letters that this clerk is going to have to distribute to everybody, from me, from you, from everybody. And I think that the whole idea is, there's too much of a burden on this clerk. This clerk is getting buried with paper. And the less paper that's involved, you got a rule. You can do anything that you want in this meeting. And Councilman Friend said it. You can waive any rule you want, just 5 people. And you can accept anything you want at any time. Now, Councilman Friend adopted and allowed 2 pieces of legislation that she voted on, that she's never seen until about a day before. She was correct. I'm supposed to make this big decision, and I've never seen this. And that's gotta stop. But the part about requiring that you have to start writing letters of explanation, I think is a burden I don't think you want to assume or even thinking about. And that's what I think about. So, and the reason I remain silent for most of this, these are the rules. You can do whatever you want with them. Only thing is, I have to point out things I think you may have not thought of. I think.
I appreciate those comments precisely because I have thought of that. I do hope that my colleagues will also have the consideration for one another and that we will also follow this rule. And I can't believe that anybody would see it as an enormous burden to write a letter, which might be 2 or 3 sentences saying, hey, sorry to staying late, but here's what happened. I just don't think that that should be an obstacle. I mean, maybe that's me and not others, but I do hope that we would all take it seriously, you know, the expectation that we should treat each other. Yes, like this.
Council President, you have the floor?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about how council's governed from sending legislation to ourselves in timely fashion. I'm not requesting that you go back to using the old rules. Your rules are your rules. However, what I would like you to do is at least invite you to look at how the old rules process things. And the reason I state that is this. This communication from department heads, et cetera, section dealt with everyone outside the council bringing stuff down. And previously, how legislation was vetted through committee governed how the council was not allowed to drop stuff on each other's last minute. So there are 2 different situations. It made sense that they were separate. So if you want to do something like this, and you want to have a separate section governing how the council submits legislation to itself, that would make perfect sense. But it also makes sense to keep it separate. And that's, I just wanted to say that. If you want to look at that, how that process works, then keep them separated and create 2 processes which govern how legislation arrives at your desk. All right.
Any other discussion regarding this? All right, we'll move on to ordinance number 9. Heavy trucks and other freight motor trucks prohibited. This is Councilmember Miola. Would you like to discuss this?
This is simple. Freight trucks are allowed on the parkway. We, legislation should allow freight trucks on the parkway. I've been getting complaints. If you guys want to see my phone, I got pictures of tractors and trailers like you would not believe. All different styles, Peterbilt, dump trucks, dump trailers. They're getting pictures left, right, and sideways, and they're asking for all freight vehicles to take a different route and to avoid the parkway.
We already did this a couple years ago.
Well, it never was changed, so it's right.
We talked about it, we just never implemented it.
We do it now?
Is there a truck route that they can take?
Oh, yeah, they can take, the arterial, they can take all kinds of things, except cars crossing the parkway, they off the parkway.
How are we going to notify them?
The
To take
notification, of course,
alternate
goes into our city code, and, to enforce it, would be up to our,
So, how many times that they're breaking down the tree branches on the parkway?
well, it was still in city code, so I gave you guys a copy, it was still there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's go where the planning is.
So why didn't it? Now, this isn't a state highway, correct? This is different. Road.
Absolutely, sir.
So,
Well, we can put a sign up too. You can put it on either side of the parkway.
Well, we would have to ask the owners or put it on a telephone pole, you know, they're very strict on that.
Well, we own 3 feet.
Yes, we do.
There's not a state road.
Yeah, right. Right. I've been hearing the state road story for, I'm kind of.
Federal one. I heard that one.
Yeah. But we own it.
So, next is ordinance number 10. I'm going to assume that that's in accordance with that one. Heavy trucks prohibited?
Absolutely. We're going on the prohibited list.
Madam Chairman, the ordinance should have said in there also that the appropriate signage will be placed in on the street because, as Chief will tell you, you can't enforce any traffic regulations that are not posted.
All right, I can add
They have to
that.
be posted, so before they're going to be fined or they're going to be stopped, they have to see a sign. Now, it's assumed and presumed that there will be a sign, but it should read as, well, you, the council, design what it's going to say, and then the police department can enforce it, because it's an ordinance and a notice. Am I correct, Chief Jim?
I have a question.
Now, if you want to say, in your second, which is the adoption,
I will, Jim.
and what you wanted to say further again, the signage will say, you know that better than what I do, what you want to say, and put it in there.
Yes, sir.
I think that way that'll make it, we don't have to come back and do that later on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Any other?
What is considered a heavy truck and how, what's the weight, is there a weight limit? At least we could put a sign with a weight limit, no trucks over.
500, 10,000 pounds. 2,000 to 5.
I mean, I think we should add.
Whichever schedule R is, it's the same.
It's, of course, Council, is very familiar with it.
I'm trying to water.
I'm
trying to water.
I can't program. I hate to have trucks.
Five ton, yeah.
Very fine.
No trucks over
But I don't
5
have
ton.
trucks. Well, the no heavy truck legislation.
Deputy Chief, am I correct in asking if we don't have scales over on way of Main?
I'm getting like that, I got a lot of things about.
Any other discussion? The next ordinance is ordinance number 11. It's Councilmember Friend, Police Transparency and Accountability Act of 2020. Did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I'll just very briefly talk about this. So, last week, and we all know what's going on in the world. And then last week, Councilman Lomedico brought out his, resolution, which we'll see a little bit later in our packet. And I liked it a lot. I thought it was on target, and it inspired me to think about what would it mean to take it one step further. So, to again, codify, not just to make it possible that people can foil certain records, but to go ahead and do that one extra step of putting in front of them. So that was how I wrote this. I wrote it very carefully, thinking about what kind of records we would be talking about. And I actually pulled on the legislative language out of the repeal of 50A. And then, as we all see, everybody has very quickly come into agreement about this. So we are actually, and I'm really excited that the police department and the mayor have already started this process, beginning at the top of the department on down, to be doing exactly what this legislation codifies. So there is already clearly pretty widespread agreement in the city that this is a good step to take in the present moment, that it increases transparency, increases accessibility. It is probably the case, many of us would see the writing on the wall, that as time goes by, the executive, the state government is going to also be probably requiring us to do exactly this. This law is an opportunity for us to get out ahead of this and to be, in fact, the first state in the city of New York, the first, what did I just say? The first city in the state of New York to have such an ordinance that requires this kind of transparency. So, now originally I had actually planned to ask to put it to committee. I realized this is the first time before you, and it's an ordinance, so we would need 9 votes to pass it tonight. But the only reason I'm not right now saying put it into committee, I'd like to hear what people say, but is because all this other stuff unfolded, where the mayor and the chief and the deputy chief have all sort of started acting on it anyway. So depending upon people's thoughts, I would bring it out tonight, or I will place it in committee.
Councilperson Miola, you have the floor.
Councilperson Trent, it was a great legislation. I believe that Jack Remendel's legislation also mirrors it. I think that, at this time, we can put this in committee because our next step on this legislation, as the governor requested all municipalities to do, is start to conduct a public hearing on the process. I'm hoping that Frankie DeBrango, because of his background, this is not only for the police department, council members, it's also for the fire department, and Jack Domenico, with his background as a parole officer. I hope that you two gentlemen would lead the charge on this. Governor said very specifically, we need leaders to lead the charge on this, to get all the information we can, to help develop a very good plan and help to sustain new developments. Because as the chief of the police department said, things change. So do our directives. Our directives have to change with our environment. So I'm hoping that Councilman Jack Domenico and Councilman Frank DeBrango help us call a public hearing and get things together with this. But at this time, if you don't mind, Jack Domenico wrote a very, very well thought out piece of legislation, and if you don't mind, I'd like to support that.
I'm all good with that. Can I ask that I also be involved in that public hearing? It's also about internet and all that kind of stuff that's so important to me. Thank you.
Madam,
You have the floor.
so can I just ask a couple questions here? So the mayor today came out, released a statement, okay, where he's supporting all this, okay? The governor has already placed this into law, okay? Well, my question to Jack, to you, Celeste, to Frank, what is the governmental purpose of this bill? It's already passed.
What passed 50A was a repeal of a
I
law.
understand, but what is the purpose? So what I'm saying is, we're a local common council, okay? The governor passed the bill. It's done. It's over and done. Why are we?
We didn't pass anything like that. Yet the governor has not required the
We
city.
have from April 2021 to basically go through. So if we don't do that, then our mayor, who's the CEO of the city, the head of the city, jumped on it. He's right there. It's there. So what do we do? Why do we gotta keep jumping in on it? It's already there. It's here. It is true. I mean, you read what the mayor put out today.
No,
Council member.
Can I give you a background? Okay. Initially, after all this took place with the Black Lives Matter, I sat down with some people in the some legislation, asking if the assembly, this resolution has history. Matter of fact, it's been changed like 5 times, and I'll explain what happened. Initially, it was going before the assembly, and they're going to vote on it to repeal Article 50. Okay. So I wrote it asking the assembly to repeal it, not thinking that it was going to happen so. So then I wrote it thanking the assembly for passing it. Then a couple of days later, the governor signed off on it, right? So now it says, thank you, the assembly and the governor for signing off. So all I'm doing is showing support on this, on what the assembly and the governor did. So it sort of grew as it went, but does it have any teeth? Does speeches talking? No. It's just saying that we back with the governor did. Right?
And as far as I'm concerned, Evan, I'm
not looking to change that.
No, and I have no problem with transparency. I'm for it. There's certain things like there is in every bit of legislation that I don't like on it. So in front of me, I'm not gonna just say yes to something because you guys think it's great. The governor passed. I'm a council person and I'm gonna follow the law from the governor to the mayor. But I'm not gonna vote yes for something if there's stuff in it that I don't like. And there's some stuff in there that I don't like. There's a lot of it that I like, and I believe in transparency, but there's some stuff that, again, we're voting on something that is not gonna change one way or another. That's
My
I understand.
resolution has nothing to do with the law. You know, I approve what they did.
Okay.
Now, if you don't approve what they did, then you
No, I do, 95% of it I approve. There are certain parts of it that I don't approve. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Moody, did you still want the floor?
Absolutely. It's a few things. So this is about transparency. There's a brief with this massive. So there is a few things. Number one, we talk about transparency. The council can have a role in saying what they want to be released and not to be released in guidelines with 58, right? It doesn't always have to be negative. You can say you want to release the positive things on the officer's record. You want to release specifically, 58 is backward looking. You can say in the future we want to make known the complaints about racial bias. We want to make known the complaints about excessive use of force, make known the complaints or disciplinary action of sexual assault. I mean, a whole list of things that you can say that you want looking forward. In terms of the plan, it's not a set deal. It's not done. The executive order tasks the municipality, right, to create a plan. That plan requires legislation and ordinances and laws. Therefore, as a legislator, it is our role to connect with our Commissioner of Public Safety, who happens to be the mayor, to say, what is the plan? How can we work together on that? Which is what Councilman Neal's resolution is going to suggest. And then for us, and the resolve of his resolution says, come back to the council so that we can write the appropriate laws, legislation, ordinances that correspond with that. So really the work is just begun for us because we have to write the ordinances that correspond with the plan that they have. And the reason I was gonna call Councilman DeBranco, but I did text you last week, was to see, echoing what Councilman Viola said, to have the public safety hearing, to begin to start the conversation, because we have to make sure that all of this energy that's happening right now, that it teases out into comprehensive legislation that moves the city forward and that increases and improves community policing efforts. So, I think this ordinance should be placed into committee, to be honest. I think it should be forward-looking, that we can agree upon what we want to be released, in the future. And, if we can have that public hearing soon, I think it'd be good. That's it.
I concur with that. I just think it's a little premature because I know the police chief, the fire chief, everybody's sitting down at the mayor's office now and formulating a plan. And I think it would be great if we were part of that. So one thing we should mention to the executive staff, as you're talking, make us part of the team so we know what's going on. So I'm sort of passing it on to you. All right.
Madam Chairman,
You have the floor.
the Utica newspaper published an article on this. And the Utica newspaper generally is very accurate about when they put a quotation mark. They said in the paper that in addition to the repeal, which I haven't seen, I do know there was a question in the legislature how the freedom of information law is going to work in this instance. I think that committee's going to have to make some rules, which we will have to follow in state statute. But according to the paper, it said that the governor did sign an executive order. And that executive order required local governments and police forces to enact their own reform by April 1 of next year. And it also, it says, the local government, before they're going to get any more money regarding public safety, has to put forth and have a plan that implements de-escalation training and practices, community-based outreach, and a transparent citizen complaint dispositive and disposition procedure. Now that is all contained word for word with quotation marks in Council Neal's resolution, because that is a duty that the executive order has placed upon you as a local government and just features. That's why I'm saying to you that resolution evidently is an executive order. What the legislature did is they just repealed a statute that had been in existence for a long time involving, I think it was, who the correctional officers did it, and the probation officers did, the 58. It could look good more than police officers.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I haven't seen anything about that. But what is in the Neola resolution, I took right out of the newspaper. Because evidently there is an executive order. I don't think they would talk to the executive order and what it said unless they're quoting the government. So that resolution, as far as what the ordinance is, I reserve comment on that because I haven't seen what the footnotes are of the repeal and how they said anything. If they just repeal the law, I think that they're gonna have to go to the Freedom of Information Law and do something with that. Because there has to be a process that the state, who controls the Freedom of Information Law, we will have to follow. The mayor's, letter to you or statement, it seems to be that he has really expanded on what, he's going to do without even being ordered to do something. And it was very expansive. I was rather surprised by it, to tell you the truth. I'm sure he received some help from the corporation council, et cetera. So, quite frankly, this is a work in progress, and it's going to require, we as a local government, councilmen, are going to be involved because they say so. How much we're involved, and it's all of our responsibility is going to be encouraging the police departments and whoever else is involved about the training, actually having a program and a plan that you're going to have to submit to the governor and the legislature by April of 2021 on what the plan is. So you got a lot of work ahead of you, and you can always get those records before by quarter, right? But now that's all gone. What the procedure is going to be, well, the mayor has said that he's just going to be on board with the release of whatever's asked for. But there has to be a procedure even for that. Will you correct that? Will you, Mr. Rowe?
That is correct.
I will agree with what involved. I think it's going to be one.
There's certain exceptions that obviously can't be.
Medical records.
Name, social security number, dates of birth, medical records,
Personal
allegations
address.
in regard to sexual abuse, things like that. So that's how we work that, and that's what Chief, you and I just talked about.
I think Councilman Moody is correct that there is a lot of work that's going to be done in this state, and local governments are really going to be involved. So everything is germane. How we're going to be involved, I personally, as your attorney, I'm not prepared to say, other than what the executive order says, about how you're going to be involved in how this information gets to people. I think really is a state issue also to that you put it through information. And I'm expecting that if you speak to your legislators, and Hutton John, they're going to tell you whether that's on the table. And we'll be hearing more about this as we go along. And that's all I have. I have no comment one way about the ordinance that Brenda submitted, but I do have a comment about the resolution because that's an executive order directing local governments, and that I would hope you would adopt. That's all I have to say.
Councilman DeBrango, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. First of all, I commend what the mayor did today. I commend that the department CPD brass is behind it 100% as far as being transparent. But I did see the governor's briefing on Sunday, and I happened to call the mayor Sunday afternoon. And actually, Councilman Leo lead me to this legislation because I did want to talk to him about that. And we had a long discussion. And I just want to say one thing, that we are so, I feel that the Utica Police Department is so far ahead of all of these other departments that you're talking about throughout our state. First of all, you got to remember, we are accredited, okay? We already have community leaders that are involved. We had a summit over the spring. We had it at the park, with the gun back. So I think we have a good base that's set up. When the governor's talking about municipalities, these big cities, Rochester, Buffalo, New York, their chiefs, they don't have a thumb on any of their workers. Their departments are so large and they're so spread out. And there's thousands and thousands of police officers throughout the city. And they don't have it. Our department is 168.
Dave Short has left the meeting.
There's a thumb on every single men and women that work for our department. Some of these precincts are larger than our department, and that's where we're having the problems. I think they're having in major metropolitan cities where they get lost. And I don't think that our officers get lost. I think they're on top of everything every day. Our chiefs, our brass are right there. If an officer's going bad, they steer them in the right direction. I have 100% total confidence of how our department is working. Is there room for improvement? Yes. Do we have to have something in writing by April? Yes. So I think if we all work together, I think we're gonna get something in writing. But he said he was on the phone with the governor's office Friday. And he wants to know what guidelines, that he would like us to follow, because we are a step ahead. I truly believe we're a step ahead of a lot of other departments in the state. And so I really want to commend what he did today. It's a good start. And I'm sure there's a lot more work to do. And he said within the near future, he will be making more announcements. So does the council want to be involved? Definitely. Me being a part of public safety most of my career, I'd love to be involved. I'm sure every one of us want to have a say in it. I'm sure we can come to an agreement, but we do have some time on it. But I strongly believe that this department is rides ahead of every other department in the state. And I commend not only this council, but the past councils for supporting the police department as they do, giving them the tools to work with financing, whatever it may be, because to be accredited, that's a major step. And a lot of these departments that have their issues are not even close to accreditation. So I just wanted to mention that with this discussion. Thanks.
Councilman Williamson, you have the floor.
Yeah, just like this, or all this discussion, I think all this legislation should be thrown in committee until we figure out what's going next. I think the governor is handed to the public for this right now in the situation. So what's going on in the world. So I think all three pieces that are dealing with this 50A and everything else going on with transfers of the police department. Like I said, it's include the fire department, it might include the TPW, it might include us. You know what I mean? It's got to be fair across the board. So I think it needs to sit in committee, all that stuff, until we figure out and get some more guidance on what we're gonna do with this. I think all these things here, it's all pandering to the public right now. I think all these go in committee until we figure out where we're gonna go. All right.
I am happy to have this go into committee. I'd like to go into a joint committee of both public safety with Councilman DeBrango and myself with internet website, for the transparency issues. I'm absolutely happy to have this go into committee.
Actually, all three of them.
What?
He said that he would like all three pieces of legislation to deal with this issue to go into committee. The thoughts from the council on that one? Councilman Miola?
I can understand, mine is the actual legislation that we do have to go by, and that can be put in committee until after the public hearing, which is fine. I can understand that, but Jack Lamentos, the banking legislation of the governor and the administration, I have no problem voting on, Mr. Lamentos, Councilman Lamentos, legislation.
Any other discussion? The next is ordinance number 12. It is Councilman Beatrice. Intersection where stops required. Would you like to discuss this one? Are you good with this one?
I'm fine with it, yep, I sent this in. This is just, if you go on, Leland Ave and, Woods Ave, the intersection there, there's a flashing light, there's a stop sign on it's a three-way intersection. There's a stop sign and a flashing light, on two of the corners. The third corner in front of the old, Utica Ally, there is no stop sign. The trucks coming from the filtration plant are running that, light. So I talked to the deputy chief there, we did a traffic study on it, and we're gonna put a stop sign there. And I believe the other two stop signs weren't there properly. No, they were there, but there was no
There's no
legislation.
legislation.
Yeah, so we're taking care of all three.
All right. You're legislating signs that are there.
No. There's two two that are there, but there's one that's not. So, yeah, okay. Thank you.
The next, if entertained, the Thursday rule will need to be waived on it. It's resolution number 13. I know that there was discussion regarding putting this piece of legislation in committee. Is this something you'd still like to do, Councilman Miola?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
We're placing this in committee?
Correct.
Until after the public hearing. So the public,
But the public hearing's not gonna change they gotta come to the plan.
Yeah, this is very general.
It's the same thing.
It's only a resolution, you don't need unanimity for it tonight.
do I have my colleagues, word as soon as possible that there's going to be a public hearing, joint public hearing with the mayor? To find out what the public's input will be on this issue, gentlemen? Okay. All right, well, if the council doesn't want to play meeting or we're to vote on them, okay with that.
I'd rather have it go in committee, Frank.
If they don't feel comfortable with something that they said is already a done deal because the executive signed it, then I understand that, but if it's already a done deal, the resolution is just simply saying that that's past time here was creating the plan, that's all it is saying.
That's correct. But if my colleagues would like to put it to me, that's fine. Whatever you prefer.
Thank you, Councilmember Miola. The next is resolution number 14. If this one is entertained, it will have to have the Thursday rule waived on it as well. It's a resolution commending the legislator and governor of New York State for repealing New York Civil Rights Law 50-A from Councilmember Medico. We discussed this one, and I believe we are going to support this.
Madam Chairman, I have something from the state legislature. And I want to, because the fire chief is here, this legislation for repeal relates to personal rights of police officers, firefighters, and correction officers. And I know all the discussions have always been about police officers, and also firefighters have no longer had that protection that they have under 58 either, nor the correction officers. And the adjustment, what I said earlier before I read this, is was said in the justification part of the legislation. It's a freedom of information law that they think is being violated and has been violated. And I think that when I read this dissertation about justification for passing the bill, they're going to have to amend the foot so that give the methodology of how you're going to do this. And to answer Councilman Williamson, it says that FOIL was accountability and transparency, but it said it provides that all public employees, including those under 58, have protections that are more. So that's why I say FOIL is going to be revisited, and it's going to expand beyond policemen, firefighters, and correction officers. So we'll have to see in the future what they're going to do. And this will all be state law. As far as the resolution of Mr. Miola, that's just, I can talk. That's all I have to say on that. I'm sorry I've been belaboring so long. Thank you.
The next one is resolution number.
It is one small change. It's just a commending the legislature. TUER.
Oh.
Yeah, this one.
Okay. The next one is resolution number 16. If entertained, you'll have to waive the Thursday rule on this one as well. It is from Councilmember Miola, appointing representatives to the Joint Rotation Licensing Commission.
And as we were worked hard to amend that legislation, Reggie Brang was going to go over it specifically and give qualifications for it during the time. We worked very diligent on it. There is a open position open. I would like to put that legislation in committee so we can talk over who would like that appointment and go from there. Thank you, members.
The next one is ordinance number 17. The Thursday rule would have to be waived on this one as well for council member Friend. No parking at all times. Are you okay with this one?
I'm not gonna vote on it, so that's.
Oh, come on, Frank.
Fair.
I'll stick those people on you.
There's no explanation.
Well, I just why is that a yellow marker on it?
It was a copy.
Uh,
Legislation in the Public Safety Committee, the ordinance number 5 signed, will be entertained this evening.
Yes, I'll be going that out.
Next is in the Codes Committee, ordinance number 1, neighborhood notification. We'll be entertaining this evening.
yes.
Do we want to talk on that before? Any questions, concerns?
I am going to make one small amendment, which is that I'm going to, on the very, in number 2, so it's on the second page, at number 2, at the very bottom, so it currently says located on a corner, blah, blah. And then a new sentence, sign shall be placed no later than 10 days prior to neighborhood. So just stipulating when that sign has to go up.
No later than?
No later than 10 days prior to neighborhood meeting.
Councilmember Williamson, if I do remember correctly, is there an amendment you wanted to make to your current one?
Yeah, on the one that's already in place, it's in the planning board, I believe, right, Brian? Planning or zoning board is in there, for you guys communication on it or something?
Well, my understanding is it was approved last year.
Yeah.
No,
by town council.
Let me clarify that. The common council passed a resolution to send the planning board, the PC sponsor, didn't come back yet.
It was an ordinance.
Correct.
Ordinance.
It was another company, it was an ordinance.
We didn't pass the ordinance.
No, you couldn't pass the ordinance. The document was an ordinance.
Yes, what we sent to you was an ordinance.
Yeah.
But we passed a resolution saying we would send them the ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So,
So it is still there.
That's correct.
And if I can address that,
And this was
legislation went
accepted.
to the city clerk's late this afternoon. And we're not expecting, action on it at tonight's meeting, but it was intended for information purposes. We're proposing to amend and overhaul the city's zoning ordinance and zoning map. And part of that would include the notification, and you included Councilman Williamson's language in that proposal. What Councilwoman Friend has suggested is also amendment to the zoning ordinance, and that would have to go through the same procedure, which would require 2 public hearings and recommendations from the planning.
so I'm okay about amending, with the signage and everything up. We discussed that the other day. And, finally, we just gotta get this thing moving. It's been sitting there for a while.
All right, so,
May I?
well, actually, may I have the floor for 1 second for some procedural, clear something up for Councilperson Friend, sorry. If you would like to see this happen, you need to resolve, even if you do it verbally, move to resolve that this piece of legislation be sent to the planning board for their review, and then they will review this, and then it'll come back to the council for action.
And they've got to actually hold their own public hearing.
Right.
And then make recommendations back.
So procedurally, if you wanted to move to resolve and send this piece to the planning board for review, you could.
Can you explain that to me in more detail procedurally?
I can't remember which part of the zoning text it is, but if you're gonna modify the planning board or the zoning board text, the planning board reserves the right to first review that and provide an opinion. Even if they disagree with it, the council will pass it. But the first part of the process is you must hear their, opinion on it. And I think that's either 30 or 45 day turnaround. Where, when the council resolves to send an amendment to the planning board procedures to them, they have, I think, 30 or 45 days to then kick that back to council with their letter of intent on what they thought. 90 days? Okay, 90 days, sorry.
And section 229.
Thank you.
I think.
By the way, he's the guy, we pay to know all the section numbers. Yeah.
That's what
I
we're,
think you ought to send this, just like the other ones, to the planning board, because the statute requires they must get it.
Exactly.
And they have to have a public hearing. before they send their recommendations back to the council on both pieces of legislation. Now, if they want to send back a proposed ordinance to us, then we'd have to have a public hearing also. So there are actually two public hearings going to be involved. And Councilman Friend's ordinance, and the one that Williamson, Councilman Williamson sent up, as Mr. Thomas said, they may be combined into one good ordinance, and a whole new rule about the notice, and it'll all be done together.
Okay.
So why don't we have them just go up there and do what they're supposed to do? They're supposed to have review them, they're supposed to have a public hearing, they're supposed to send it back with a report, and if they want to send it back on an ordinance, fine, we'll have a public hearing, and then we can.
Okay, yeah, thank you, George. Great, thank you for explaining that. That's great. I didn't know any of that prior to this. That's all good, and if that's how it has to work, that's how it has to work. Here's my frustration. Y'all have been doing this for a long time. And the people out there would really like to have a rule like this in place prior to the next big development that comes down their block. This, I mean, if this is how we have to do it, if this is how the city, if it's written this way, etc. But you know, there were some emails exchanged a couple of weeks ago about Councilman Williamson's amendment, and nobody could even find it or even could show it to anybody. I mean, it's sort of gone down some kind of black hole. This will not go down the black hole because I'll be chasing it down that black hole. So if this is how it has to go, then this is how it has to go. I'm going to be on top of this. The people of South Utica want this, and it's good for everybody in the city of Utica. And we need to get this done. That I would love to see the zoning. I mean, you've shown it to me, the 155-page document. Let's do it.
Well, we sent it down this afternoon, so you should have it. If you don't have it already, you should have it in the next day or so.
Okay.
We proposed a zone, complete overhaul of the zoning map as well as the zoning ordinance.
Terrific. Okay.
It's actually online on the city's website.
Okay. Right. No, that's where I remember you pointed me to that one.
The latest, the final draft there, the one that we're going to ask you as a body to adopt.
Okay. And can you just very briefly, and I don't want to belabor the point too much, can you sort of very briefly describe in that new zoning ordinance the up to date, what are you providing for in terms of the basic intent of my ordinance? What are you providing for?
In terms of public notice?
In terms of public notice and a neighborhood meeting, the requirement that the results of a neighborhood meeting be part of the application from a developer, etc.
What's in the current final draft that we're proposing doesn't go as far as your ordinance does. We incorporated Councilman Williamson's language as part of it.
Okay.
The existing notification as well.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I mean, if that's how it has to go, that's how it has to go. We have the city line, obviously. But I am concerned about this process getting dragged out over months and years, and meanwhile, the people of Utica are asking for this legislation, and I would really like it if we could deliver it to them in the most efficient manner possible. And like I say, I'll chase it down the rabbit hole if I have to. So. Okay.
I just want to say before we, my recommendation, sharing code, is that before we do, you send it up. My question to the judge is, if we get that ordinance back, can we amend it and not have to send it back to planning board? Because if that's the case, then we can just get Councilman Williamson's ordinance, add your stuff to it, and then debate that here. That way we don't have to do 2 more public hearings, send it back to planning, and just combine the 2.
Yeah, the planning board is going to send you back and forth. And whether they do it on her legislation or Williamson's legislation, it doesn't make any difference. That's the one you're going to be considering. You have to understand something before you, for the new council, we had another ordinance that was done by Councilman Marino. And the reason why that was rejected was because the case law doesn't support a lot of that. You see, you cannot pass laws that take away the duties of officials. The planning board and zoning board are really state statutes, right, Mr. Burrell? Right. That's why there's very little in our statute, because those bodies are state statutes. They're under the state law. And their powers are very great, and the courts will not upset planning boards because of, objections that are not based on, well, there are illegalities, there's about 4 provisions when the courts will even look at what a planning board has decided. In Councilman Marino's, ordinance, which wasn't adopted or even set up, it put too much emphasis on, the public, having these meetings in their district and then somehow, determining the outcome. That can't be, because it takes away the role and duty for the state law and their powers. And I think Mr. Thomas will back me up on that. That was probably one of the major objections. Councilman Williamson's was a broader, and of course it's and you're going to have to provide notice. You're going to allow bodies not only in South Utica, but every place in Utica where you have local people attend meetings, but their report of the local group is not going to be determinative or can be determinative of the final action of the planning board.
I understand that, actually, and my legislation is written such as to understand that that's, in a democracy, not everybody has what they want, because people want different things.
Councilman, you understand, I did not object.
Right.
And I think that you're right. The whole matter now, according to Mr. Thomas, is going to be reviewed by the planning board like we should have done a long time. I hope. They should then send their report back after they've had their public hearing. And hopefully out of that, we will get an ordinance that we will have a public hearing on, that eventually will be adopted and will amend the zoning laws.
So can I ask a question, a couple of questions?
I asked you before.
Oh.
Can I ask Mr. Thomas, question? Bottom line is, like Councilperson Friend said, bottom line is we need to get this done as fast as possible for the people, because it is good legislation. The Councilman Williamson wrote, it's good legislation. Councilperson Friend wrote. I ask you, why would it have taken this long? Why did we go through this process? This should have been up and done back in November or in, can you just explain to me why that would happen?
Well, again, what was sent to the state clerk's office in terms of the revising the zoning ordinance, zoning map, it's not what that, so it's on everything. We've been in this process probably since, the city, master plan was adopted in 2011, in terms of drafting a new zoning ordinance and a new zoning map. In terms of the public notice, element, we wanted to incorporate that into the larger amendment that we're now proposing.
Okay. Can you get this done to us like back by our next meeting? I mean, can we vote on this?
Again, I would prefer not to take it piecemeal. I would prefer to look at the larger zoning amendment, zoning ordinance amendment, and zoning map amendment that we propose, and include the public notification as a part of that larger picture.
So, just to clarify for Commissioner Thomas, what he's stating is, one, the piece that Councilman Williamson had previously proposed has now been integrated into what was sent down. And two, can't remember if it's one or A, but that's fine. Two, the piece that Councilperson Friend just proposed could also be integrated by us if we think about this in the context of the overall zoning update. That's what he's saying. I'm just clarifying what he's saying, so everyone understands.
Well, so technically, we still don't have a response on Councilman Williams.
Right.
Technically, you all still have not responded to that ordinance.
From October.
You just included his language in whatever you all sent out.
Right. So wait, we did respond.
Well, in a very quiet way.
Does the procedure require you to respond specifically to that ordinance?
I'm sorry?
Does the procedure require you to respond specifically to that ordinance?
Now, if the time elapses, then the council could act on said ordinance. So technically,
Except that now we're talking about a former council.
So we can bring that forward next meeting
Yeah,
combined, so yeah.
you could.
Okay,
That's
can
right.
can I just clarify, did you just say you've been working on this for 9 years?
Well, there's a process to understand that there's a process in terms of getting the money, securing the funds, which took some time. The city doesn't have the funds to do this on its own. So we had to secure a grant from the New York State of $168,750. That took several years to get. It didn't immediately happen after. I tied this came out of the adoption of the master plan. But you can't really do it until you have the funds for it, which took time.
Right.
We then had to hire a consultant. It then takes time to draft it. There was public review and comment.
So I have a separate question, so I have a separate procedural question, you might be able to answer this, somebody else might. So you just said, we'll look at it, and if we say, well, we want to change, we want to tweak here, we want to tweak there, does that start the whole 45-day public hearing process over again? Every time?
The judge said no.
No.
No, okay, all right, just asking for clarification on that, okay.
Understand that's part of the process too, when we're changing the zoning ordinance. There's county planning review that's required, and there's a seeker review that's required too. So you can't just, at your next meeting, approve Councilman Williamson's legislation that he proposed at the end of last year. And again, I would ask that you not do this piecemeal, that you look at this in its entirety as an entire document.
I think that makes eminent sense, that you do one thing all at once, and you make sure that all the pieces fit together appropriately. I think that makes eminent sense. My concern again is that, this is taking too long, and people.
Well, we started the process.
Okay, right, no,
I would love to have this done by the end of summer.
fair point. And so just to kind of, to loop all the way back to things that we talked about at the beginning of this meeting, how long are you gonna, it's a 150-page document, something like that? Although a lot of pictures, everybody knows we panic. So.
Yeah, that was one of the points of our doing this, is to
Right.
include more graphics,
Right.
make it more
So
understandable.
we're gonna give the council lots of time to really study it, read through it, take it to our constituents.
The planning board has the next regular meeting tomorrow night. I'm asking them to schedule their public hearing for their July 16th meeting. One of the resolutions that was sent down for the common council to consider is scheduling a public hearing in your August meeting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Next is ordinance number 5. This is the Councilmember Beatrice feral cat ordinance.
No, I'm not gonna bring that out at all. I thought I said that at the last meeting.
Okay. I think the last thing that we should probably figure out before we end this session is when we'll be meeting in July and August. I know we've talked about it through emails, have we pinned down a date?
But I said, Judge Garamone, your recommendations, my recommendations, Judge Garamone's all reflecting the same, on the calendar for everybody, I believe it was July 15th and August 12th. That would split the difference, and space the meetings out accordingly between today's meeting and September 2nd. The way the days fall, our first meeting is prior to Labor Day. So, anyone can just.
I'm okay with that, are you okay with that?
I make a motion to accept those dates.
Well, this isn't the meeting.
Not the meeting.
I understand it.
I know, but there's no motion, yeah. So,
Does anybody have any objections regarding those dates?
August 12th?
August 12th and July 15th.
Yeah, the 15th and 12th. Then we go right to September 2nd.
yes.
I mean, can I ask a question? If you happen to be on vacation one of those weeks, can you do it, on the computer remotely?
I suppose you could, considering the way we're dealing with this, yeah, typically we just have.
If we could July 15th, come on vacation, but as of now, I'm not going anywhere, but in case you took off.
Right. Okay.
So we're all coming to our house real quick.
Got 3 of ours.
Done.
Little raise for the size of the meeting. The longest caucus I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman,
We're gonna have to have a piece of legislation tonight.
you're not good?
And,
I have a
A
question.
participant has joined the meeting.
Well, so I have a question, Judge. If one of the council people, considering they're taking minutes anyhow, makes a motion to resolve that July 15th and August 12th will be the meeting throughout the summer session.
but I think we ought to memorialize. We'll have a resolution.
Okay.
Into the record.
Okay, well, I mean, because they'll put it in the record.
Yeah. Don't worry, I will make a motion that their meetings are this time in July and August, and first, a regular council meeting after, the summer session will be September.
Okay.
Okay, and that will take care, that's the end. We gotta get the meeting now.
Well, yeah, so,
Councilman Lorenzo?
Are we doing our picture on August 12th?
next,
We got new council, they haven't taken the picture yet.
all right,
Well, Mr. President,
what's up?
we need to take our picture, right?
We do. We never got to that, did we?
We will, work on figuring the logistics of that out.
Now,
A participant has left the meeting.
I just need to ask if we can, even though we can't stray far, we're only allowed in this room in the lobby, I had some correspondence from the camera guy. I'm gonna try and move the camera rig to the center table so that the live stream can hear the audio better. So if we could, whenever you adjourn, we will convene the regular meeting 10 minutes after your adjournment. Okay,
Meeting adjourned?
okay, so,
Second?
all right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 10:08.
Hello.
Bob, you ready?
The clerk will call the roll.
McNeil, Burmeister, Friend, Miola, Moody, Beatrice, Williamson, Lomedico, DeBringo, Galini, all present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so before we begin, I'm going to switch things up just a smidge here. The last meeting, there were communications from the mayor. Those communications did not get read, so I'm going to start off with those today. So first order of business, we have communications from the mayor. This is the mayor's message to the common council. If you could all please mute your phones, it would be appreciated. That wasn't part of the message, by the way. Yeah. Let's see, stable. All right. So this is a message from Mayor Palmieri to the council. Last week, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed legislation repealing a section of New York Civil Rights Law 50A, which prevented the disclosure of law enforcement personnel records. With the repeal of 50A, personnel records of law enforcement employees are now subject to public disclosure with some legal exceptions. My administration, this is the mayor speaking, my administration and Utica Police Department recognize the transparency and substantive engagement are critical for police legitimacy and acceptance in the eyes of the community it serves. After discussions with Police Chief Mark Williams, Deputy Chief Ed Noonan, leadership of the Police Benevolent Association, and City's Corporation Council, I have decided to begin the process of posting the personnel records of UPD employees on the city's website. And the only information that won't be posted is information that cannot be legally disclosed. Again, this is the message from the mayor. Police Chief Mark Williams and Deputy Chief Ed Noonan will be the first two members of the UPD to have their personnel records disclosed. Both records will be posted on the city website by Monday, June 22nd, and the website will be updated weekly. It is important the public understands there are tens of thousands of documents that must be reviewed, and it will take a substantial amount of time before the personnel records of all UPD members are posted. In February, the city's Access and Inclusion Committee held a solutions summit, which brought the public and law enforcement together to promote substantive dialogue and build trust. The decision to post UPD personnel records is a positive step in building that trust. On the broader policy perspective, there are over 500 police departments in New York State, and UPD is one of only few police agencies that is state accredited. Accreditation is a progressive and contemporary way of helping police agencies evaluate and improve their overall performance. It also provides formal recognition that a police agency meets or exceeds general expectations of quality in the field and demonstrates commitment to implementing best practices and policies that are conceptually sound and operationally effective. While UPD has earned this distinction, we are continuously training our officers so they are applying leading industry standards, tactics, and policing policies. In addition, UPD was at the forefront in enacting the very policy reforms the public is now calling on police departments across the country to implement. Our police department was one of the first in New York State to utilize body-worn cameras, and with today's announcement, Utica remains at the forefront of instituting community-based, transparent policing by becoming one of the first police departments in New York State to post the personnel records of its officers. I'm proud of our police department and the great work they do in keeping our residents safe. I commend Chief Williams and Deputy Chief Noonan for their leadership and professionalism. My administration and UPD personnel will continue to engage with the community to build bridges and foster even stronger relationships. That was the mayor's communication to the common council this evening. Let's see here. All right, next order of business, public hearing. We actually have no properties or ordinances, or local laws for that matter, during the public hearing this evening, so the public hearing is now closed. do we have a motion and were the minute, well, let me first ask, is there acknowledgement that the minutes were, posted to council prior to the last meeting? Clerk?
So the minutes were emailed to all council members on June 4th, 2020, and they also are on the cityofutica.com website for the public review.
I would like to move to waive the reading of the minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to waive. We have a second from Councilman Miola. Any opposed? Okay, no one's opposed. I've been waiting a long time to say that. Makes the simple votes a lot easier. Okay. We've done communications from the mayor. Reports from the city officers. Chief Ingersoll.
No reports.
Okay. Deputy Chief Noonan. Corporation Counsel. Thank you very much for your attendance. It's appreciated and helpful in many accounts. Okay. I believe we have a cash report.
Yes, I have the cash report from the city controller. The city of Utica cash report for May, report as of May 31st, 2020 is $30,962,000. Received and filed.
Do we have any other miscellaneous communications this evening?
There are no miscellaneous communications.
Okay, thank you. There's no miscellaneous communications. We do have something that I'd like to read. Can you hand me that, please? We do have the street list, 2020 paving list. I'm going to read into the record. We have Arthur Street. The limits are where they're paved from. It's Arthur Street, Hammond Ave to Hilton Ave, Burstone Road, Sunset Ave to Genesee Street, French Road, Hartford Place to Seward Ave, Genesee Street from Watson Place to Noyes Street, James Street from Oneida to Elm, James Street from Elm to Miller, Northern Road from Herkimer Road to Service Place, Oneida Street from Walker to Hobart, Ontario from Gulick to Rucker, Rucker from Bacon to Culver, Service from Coventry to Northern Ave, Seymour from Lee to Mortimer, Sunset Ave from Shaw to Lincoln, and Welsh Bush Road from Albany to Culver Ave. That's a total of 3.01 miles and rolled out in accordance with the rollback that the council passed this budget year. We also have Riverside Drive, Melvin Road, and Ashland. Thank you very much. Okay. Let me just make sure we don't have anything else before we go to decisions, remonstrances, and appeals. First District and Majority Leader. Councilwoman Maria McNeil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some issues I've been having in the first district, and I'm sure we've been having all around the city, is fireworks with the 4th of July coming up. I just want to remind everyone to be responsible. I'd also like to ask Deputy Chief Noonan to please explain to the people what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, and what we can use in the city of Utica.
I'll do my best. So since certain fireworks have been made legal in the county, time frame starting mid-June to mid-July where they can be purchased legally. It's led to some confusion by public as to what's legal, what's not legal. Fireworks purchased outside the county, mainly Pennsylvania, which
Pennsylvania allows aerial fireworks displays on borders.
So anything that shoots up in the air is not allowed in the city.
If it launches from the ground, it will have some more airborne, I believe it's higher than 15 feet, 15 to 20 feet is,
you will find some that you can purchase legally that do go airborne, but not much. There's also noise ordinance in place which would apply to the fireworks. So even if someone's using illegal fireworks, if it's a violation of noise ordinance, we can require some support. Very quick, over the last, since from Thursday to Sunday, I think we received over 70 calls for fireworks. Very difficult for us to, once we arrive, usually people who are lighting them off are gone. We won't get much cooperation from neighbors, just who's lighting them off, so it's difficult to enforce penal law with regard to fireworks, which ask for neighbors' cooperation. Dedicated patrols out there trying to curb this problem. We sympathize with a lot of people back to the PFP. We have animals that are by the fireworks children, the problem. So we're just asking the public to please use, be neighborly and use common sense.
Thank you. So everyone, just please be courteous of your neighbors, please follow the rules, and have a safe 4th of July. With that being said, I would like to introduce and ordinance or resolution number 7, the resolution approving the traffic ticket diversion program intermunicipal agreement between Oneida County and the city of Utica. Can I ask the clerk to please read this?
Whereas the city of Utica and the Oneida County District Attorney's Office desire to enter into an intermunicipal agreement where the county shall distribute funds generated by the traffic ticket diversion program and enables the county to disperse 1/3 of the funds collected back to the city of Utica to cover clerical work required for administration of the program. And whereas such intermunicipal agreement requires common council approval as per Article 5-G of the General Municipal Law. Therefore, be it resolved, the traffic ticket diversion program agreement between the Oneida County District Attorney's Office and the City of Utica is substantially the form as attached hereto is hereby approved, and it is further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute this agreement and any other documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution. Your votes, please.
We need a vote to take it out of committee first, no?
This is not
This is not
in
a committee.
This was just moved by the councilwoman and discussed at pre-meeting conference. We need a second, actually, though, before we. All right, Lemonaco's the second. Thank you. Okay, call the vote.
9 is adopted.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to adopt resolution number 1. It is a commissioner of fees for Alma Mujnik.
Is there a second? We have a second from DeBrango.
Okay, I don't care, just, so you know. We voted for it anyway, it doesn't make it.
Well,
It's 86-3 from our last council meeting, so we should take it out of committee first.
I feel like it was rescinded by, so we'll have to follow up on this, and if we didn't process it proper, we'll have to deal with it, but.
Well, let's take it out of committee anyway.
It's not.
Guys, it's not in committee, trust me. We have minutes, both clerks agree. What happened with this piece is it was brought down and sent by the budget director. We never heard the piece, which is why the date still says 6/3. It wasn't in committee, we're all right, okay? All right, great. Okay,
Back to resolution number 1.
yes. So, do we, who's the second on resolution number 1? All right, DeBrango. All right, your votes. Commissioner Deeds, as read by the majority leader. No, we just have one more vote. Councilwoman? Thank you.
9 is adopted.
Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to move to adopt resolution number 2. Whereas the city of Utica was awarded an engineering planning grant through the 2019 Consolidated Funding Application CSA process by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. Whereas the city of Utica combined sewer overflows discharge into the Mohawk River, Nile Creek, and Blue Creek. These water bodies are listed on New York State Section 303, list of impaired waters requiring strategies to address the impairments. Nail and Blue Creek, for most of their water courses, are not open natural creeks, but rather closed conduits beneath the city, whereas recent data in the Mohawk River have measured levels of bacteria near the Nail and Blue Creek outflow even during dry weather conditions, whereas this emergency planning grant study will focus on potential non-CSO sources of sanitary sewage appearing in Nail and Blue Creeks, and recommended steps of affecting improvements. You want the whole thing read?
No, you can read the be it further resolved.
Be it further resolved that the city of Utica hereby determines that the proposed city of Utica combined sewer overflow abatement study project is type 2 action in accordance with 6 NYCRR section 617.0 5C24, which states that information collected, including engineering studies that do not commit agencies to undertake, fund, or approve any type 1 or unlisted action, is therefore not subject to review under 6 NYCRR Part 617.
You have a second from Neola. Thank you. Your votes.
Nine is adopted.
Mr. President, next I would.
Hey, hold on, one second, third board.
Okay, I want to
Very
get to the next.
good, very good.
Mr. President, I would like to pull and adopt resolution number 18. This is the announcement of dates for July and August common council meetings. Resolved that the common council does hereby schedule its regular July common council meeting for Wednesday, July 15th, 2020, and its August common council meeting for August 12th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the common council chamber.
This was just typed up in this format after caucus. So she read it as written. Is there a second? We have a second from Neola. Your votes.
Nine is adopted.
The minority leader was that.
That's all right. We're good.
Nobody told me.
All right, so just, since we just did that, please, the press is here. If people can hear us, we apologize for the audio quality this evening, but that's the first go at this setup. Let the record show that the next regularly scheduled meeting will now be July 15th, 2020. The August meeting will be on the 12th of August. And then we will, of course, resume our regular schedule as specified in our rules, where we will have 2 meetings a week on the first and third Wednesday starting in September. So the next meeting will be September 2nd after the summer session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all set.
Okay. Second district. Councilman Burmaster, you have the floor.
I'm good at this time. We just want to thank Marine Prevention and Fireworks. They've been loosening everybody in Western up arc about it. I know I've heard a lot of complaints about the dogs. Heard my father calls me, he goes to bed at 8 o'clock. And he can't sleep either, but just be careful with the fireworks. Have a little consideration for your neighbors. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Third district, Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So last week in the third ward, we had a fire, and I found out about it the next day. I went over and looked at the house and talked to the neighbors. So I want to commend the Utica Fire Department for its excellent work in protecting my constituents. One of the things that happened there is that there were a number of cats, and some of the neighbors reported to me that they gave the cats oxygen, and I thought, really? And I talked to Chief Ingersoll, and he said, really? So I actually learned something which I think is really great and neat, which is that our fire engines are equipped with oxygen kits for both cats and dogs. Am I getting that correct, Chief? So I really appreciate that you, the ways in which you protect us on so many levels. And then the other thing I wanted to say about the Utica Fire Department, recently Utica has been struck by a couple of really terrible tragedies, the deaths of children. And it makes me think it's, of course, not just fire, it's first responders in general, the burden that our first responders bear to be the first people on scene when a child has died, and to have to be the person who can't save a child. I appreciate, not just the ways in which our first responders put themselves in physical danger, but also in emotional and psychological danger. I think it's really important that we think about the burden of mental well-being and mental health when it comes to being someone who has to not be able to save a child and to have to tell that child's family that one can't save them. So I want to commend all of our public safety personnel for not just their physical bravery, but also for the ways in which they attend to us in so many ways. So I really, we owe it to them to give them all the resources that they need to deal with all of these kind of terrible situations, not just physical resources, but also emotional, psychological resources, etc. So I'm very happy to see that the mayor and the police department have agreed that creating transparent access to personnel records is worth doing. I'm really impressed with how quickly this process has already begun. We've all been talking about it started talking about it maybe a week ago, and here we are. It's up and running. I just think that's amazing. This really is government at its very best, when all different factions of government come together, agree, and start moving on something with such efficiency. So we're all on the same page about this. This is great, and we're going to start working on it collectively and make it even better. And I think all that's really terrific. So that's what I have to say. I do have a couple of things I'd like to pull. So I would like to pull out, where am I? Resolution 8.
Okay.
So I am bringing to the floor Resolution 8, which I will now read, sponsored by myself. This is a resolution to amend the Common Council Rules of Order, Section 3259. The following shall be substituted for the entirety of Section 32591 of the Rules of Order adopted on February 5, 2020. A, all communication and legislation to be considered at a regular meeting of the Common Council shall be submitted to the Council via the clerk no later than noon on the 5th day, excluding Sunday, before the next regular meeting. And I think I should read it as it's written and then amend. Am I correct? Okay. B, request to waive this rule shall be considered under emergencies or special circumstances. Such requests shall be made in writing and include an explanation of the emergency or special circumstances. I am amending this to strike all of that B that you see before you on this written, and instead B shall read, requests to waive this rule must be accompanied by a written explanation of why such a waiver is necessary.
All right, so before, we need a second.
For the amendment.
Thank you. Well, no, we need a second to have her move it, and then you can amend. All right, so we have a second? Okay, so Neola was the second on moving it.
I'm moving to amend it.
Okay.
And I need a second.
Just before that, I would like to make sure that the clerks had time to reflect the amendment into the record.
Requests to waive this rule must be accompanied by a written explanation of why such a waiver is necessary. And I can also give that to you in writing.
Can we put that in there, time permitting?
Yes. Yes.
Add that to it.
Time permitting.
Must be written in time.
Should we put that at the beginning? Time permitting, comma, right? Requests to, yeah. So time permitting, comma, requests to waive this rule. Thank you, Councilman.
Do we have a second on the amendment? Okay, any opposed? Hold on. We have a motion in play here. Does your request have to do with the amendment that we're currently processing?
No,
all right, well then hang on, let's amend it first then, or well, let's at least process the motion. Any opposed to the motion to amend the piece that's currently on the floor? Any opposed? Okay, no one's opposed to the amendment, so it is now sitting on the floor as amended. Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor.
I just wanted to know if we could add something else to it, but obviously it's too late now.
No, you can make another motion on it.
Like I stated before, I understand where we're going with this. To me, is there any way that we can put something in and make it concrete? We can't, unless it's a dire emergency, so it means something. Because again, I don't want to say wasted, but we discussed this for 45 minutes in caucus, and we're going at it again today. I don't have a problem with it. You know, my only problem is we're doing all this, and when it comes down to it, you can just waive the rule and do it anyway. So, I mean, if we said something like, there's no exceptions, it would be more harder unless it's a dire emergency. Okay? That's what I'd like to see on it. And, you know, I don't know if anybody agrees with me on it, but I think we should just say no. It's not in by the Thursday rule. We don't change it. That's it. Legislation does. If we're going to do this, let's do it right and let's be tough with it. Not just put it here and then when somebody does something, because guess what? It's not just the administration. It's all of us who throw stuff in late at the last minute too. So that's just my thinking, and you guys, I don't know what you guys think about that, but.
Councilperson Friend, this is your piece of legislation. May I provide a quick comment to address this question?
Yes.
Councilman Beatrice.
Yes.
The way this is, well, any resolution that governs our rules of order, this is as no as we can say. What I can say is if you did pass this, you would still be drawing a line that you wouldn't have to keep readdressing within the outside departments. If you passed this, it would establish the fact that you don't have to talk about it anymore, ever again. It's just done. If they want to bring something to you after the Thursday, prior to that regularly scheduled meeting, and they don't have just cause, it's not written down if you pass this, then you would be free and clear to say, no, we're not dealing with it. There's no, if you don't follow our rules, we're not dealing with it. You wouldn't have to keep re-explaining it. That's the only thing we fit. You know what I mean? Councilperson President.
I think I'm all set. Yeah,
All
I'd like
right,
to
your
call-
votes, your votes.
Councilman Moody had
Did I get a second on that?
Councilman Moody had something.
Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Sorry, but I'm just gonna vote down. The reality is that I was gonna ask, why would we not include the clause of emergency and special circumstances if that's what we're emphasizing, that it should be considered only an emergency? And then we take that out, strike that, and only put request to waive this rule should be accompanied with written form. I think if it's such a dire need for emergency, that should be included in the amendment.
Here's my thinking on that. That it's always going to be a matter of us making a judgment about whether this is an emergency or not. So we can write in emergency, as I did in the first version, and then we still have to use our best judgment and discretion as to whether it's really an emergency. And with the amendment as I've written it now,
I think
right?
the amendment just says that if you send it in late, just send the memo to say, sorry, oops.
No, it's still a request to waive the rules, and that can be denied. So you can send us in a thing that says, hey, I request to waive the rules because I'm not a very organized person and I didn't think about this until yesterday. And then we can all say, well, request denied.
All right, would anyone else like the floor for debate before we finish the vote?
We are voting on the amendment or on the,
No, you're voting on the legislation, amendment, yeah. I said I opposed.
on the piece of legislation itself.
Yes.
As amended.
Clear the board.
Clear the board, please. All right.
It needs adopted.
Okay, sorry I'm going to be repeating you. I just got a message from the camera crew. I think you hear it. That was 8 days adopted. We just need to make sure it's reflected in the record.
Quick show.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
All right. You still have the floor, Councilperson Brent. Anything else?
Yes, I would like to, for ordinance 11, I would like to bring that out and commit it to actually I want to commit it to 2 committees. So this is ordinance number 11, Police Transparency and Accountability Act of 2020. Whereas the New York State Legislature has recently voted to repeal New York State Civil Rights Law Section 50A, and whereas the public has a reasonable right to know how those who are sworn to serve and protect them are performing in their assigned roles, and whereas in a democracy, transparency of governmental activities is fundamental, therefore be it ordained that the City of Utica Police Department shall publicize and make easily accessible to the public, such as but not limited to this posting on their departmental website, all personnel records used to evaluate performance toward continued employment of any officer employed by the department. I would like to place this into both the public safety and the committee that is called something like Internet, Website, and Media.
Is there a second to the move? All right, so Miola seconded the move. Now there's a motion to commit.
Can I mention something?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a committee of the whole, so I think you just,
Okay.
so just put it in one committee.
Okay, good point. No, that's an excellent point. So we'll just place it into public safety. Yeah, good point.
Okay. I'm good with it. All right, so there's a okay, so is there a second? We have Miola is the second to place this in committee. Any opposed to placing this in committee? Okay, no one was opposed. Moving on, you have the floor again. Thank you.
I am done, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me just check some things off
17,
here.
hold on. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, this came in. So I would like to bring forward, and I'm going to require a Thursday rule waiver here.
We actually, we all suspended the rule, or you all
Yeah, we don't have
suspended
the
the rules. There is no. All right.
Okay, so this is a no parking at all times, so ordains that, section 216360 Schedule E. No parking at all times is amended to include the following: Simon's Place south side, Greenwood Court north side, Oneida Street to Holland Avenue.
Thank you, Sarah. Mule is with the second. The votes are on the board. Thank you.
9 E's adopted.
9 days adopted.
Just a reminder.
I am done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. 4th District Council, President Pro Tem, Councilman Frank Mioli, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to, just go over some of the accolades that my council, majority leader stated about the fireworks. Judge Garamone, is under the same concern. We both heard the blasting in our area, and it echoes to the houses all over the city of Utica. The judge is putting together and looking at what the city ordinance is, what the county ordinance, and what state statute is on the fireworks. And hopefully, we'll have more of a legislation that has a little bite to it. We're looking at all different avenues. If any of my colleagues, please interject if you have any ideas that we can bring to the table. Nobody wants to hear these loud quarter sticks, half sticks, anything before the 4th of July. For the day of the 4th of July, I guess it's, I mean, the legal fireworks are permitted, but the non-legal are not. So,
Don't put yourself in the.
that was close. That was
Yeah,
close.
that was, yeah, very,
That was
very
close. That was close save on that. So, judge has got the lead on it. He hears it just as much as I do. We know about the judge hearing. So, if he can hear it, we all can hear it. So, we're gonna work hard to make sure that's gonna be accomplished.
I'm sending you to jail.
So, I'd like to, move to our, legislation that's on the table. Mr. President, I'd like to move, ordinance number, resolution number 9, ordinance number 9.
Yes.
Heavy trucks other than through freight traffic, motor vehicles prohibited. Section 2-16373, Schedule R, heavy trucks other than freight motor vehicle prohibited. East, Parkway East, Armory Drive to Mohawk Street, Parkway West, Mohawk Street to Genesee Street, be rescinded.
Second.
There's a second from Fred. Your votes.
Nine E's adopted.
9 days adopted. Just give me one moment to catch the screen share up with the legislation we're currently on. Let's see, 6. Okay, that's one we passed, and here's.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 10, to be ordained, section 2-16374, Schedule S, heavy trucks prohibited, is amended to include Parkway East, Armory Drive to Mohawk Street, Parkway West, Mohawk Street, Genesee Street. I would also like to add to the legislation, I'm pretty sure we need an amendment, that the proper signage be posted on the parkway prohibiting anything over 5 tons.
I'd like to second the motion and second the amendment.
Okay, so the piece is on the floor. Clerks, do you have the amendment written down? Is anyone opposed to that amendment for the signage? Anyone opposed? No one's opposed. All right, so let's bring the legislation to a vote.
9 E's adopted.
9 yeas adopted. Councilman Mioli, you still have the floor?
Mr. President, I'd like to move to resolution number 16. I would like to refer to committee. It's concerning the appointment of the common council for the composition of the licensing term for the towing location.
No second.
We have a second? Hold on just one moment. I just need to make sure it's on the screen. It's coming up.
Which one was this number over there?
It's number 16. That's on the screen right there as you speak. It says, it's whereas pursuant to City of Utica Code Article 1, Section 2-28, -6, towing rotation, composition, and the powers of licensing commission. Be it resolved, the city of Utica County Council appoints. There's a line where you would write in an appointment after it's in committee. Further representative with the towing rotation licensing commission, term commencing through the remainder of the council's term.
Of course, council, we can't appoint over our term.
And, is there a second? Okay, so Friend is the second. Now there's a motion to commit. Is there a second to the motion to commit? Thank you. Friend is the second. Any opposed to placing this in committee? Okay, in committee.
Mr. President, I have one more piece. Sorry for jumping around.
No problem.
Resolution number 13.
Okay. Want to read it?
It's concerning our civil rights, repeal of the civil rights, section 50A of civil rights law. The legislation is civil legislation, but my colleagues, both Councilman DeBrango, who is a retired fire officer, and Councilman Jack Domenico, who's retired probation. Roll, I'm sorry. Retired, both of them. I'd like to also state very clearly that these gentlemen have the skills to oversee the public hearing that we're going to have to see. We get the input from the public and it's required by the governor. And I'd like to refer this committee until after the public hearing.
Very good. We have a second. Okay, we got a second to the piece. Is there a motion to commit? Okay, Neil has got the motion to commit. McNeil has a second. Any opposed, placing this in committee? Okay. Proposed resolution number 13 is now in committee.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Could you specify the committee?
The esteemed Public Safety Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. You have the floor once again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. President, thank you.
Okay, 5th District. Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first there's been so much going on in our city and in our communities all over the nation. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Yesterday I had a virtual town hall talking about some of the issues, and it was well received. A lot of people were on. We were able to talk about some very tough things that that are being discussed in the public discourse today. And I think I was able to just give my perspective and speak soberly to some of the issues that are going on in terms of race, police, community relations, and all of those things. I do want to take a moment to just acknowledge and honor Brooke Smith, who was the 6-year-old girl that died tragically a little while ago. That happened in Cornhill in my district, and I just wanted to acknowledge her and give prayers for her family during this time. Also, one of the things that I'm looking forward to working with the council on, I know the judge has given clarity about that in terms of the parks. It is getting hot out, and a lot of young people are, they've been in the house for a few months, jittered up, and I'm sure they have lots of energy. And so I would want to work with my members, colleagues on the common council to figure out in the mayor how we can move forward with reopening some of the parks, getting some of the youth back out there playing basketball, getting some of that built up energy out of their system, and doing some of the summer activities and recreation that they look forward to. That's the big thing, particularly in Cornhill. All of our basketball courts still have boards on top of them, and we're going into phase 3. Well, we're in phase 3, looking at going into phase 4, and if we're allowing businesses and restaurants to open up and have the capacity, we should allow these kids to go back to the parks and play in the safe and socially distanced area. So that's one thing I would like to see us get done and work with members of the council to get that done. I do also want to talk about the accountability aspects for our police department. Our police are the heroes in our community. They go toward the things that we run from. They are the folks we call when we need help. And I don't want that to be foiled in this conversation. Also, when we were doing committee assignments, I asked to co-chair public safety for this particular reason, and it was received amongst the whole council. I asked to chair that because there is a sensitivity that I think our police chiefs acknowledge with not just inner city folks, but with not just folks of color, but refugee populations. We have new Americans coming to this country that have come from countries, whether Bosnia or Burma or Asian Americans, Slavic Americans that have come to this country that have come from nations that had a heavy military presence in their local police forces and had atrocities there. We all know that history. And so moving that needle forward, understanding how we make comprehensive reform. You know, it's easy to get mad at the calls to defund the police or at the calls to abolish the police. Of course, those things are not where we're trying to go, where a lot of people are trying to go, and I don't support those guys. However, you know, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And you have to come to this conversation with a level of soberness and sensitivity to say, I may not agree with you on this, but you leave the bones and eat the fish and figure out what you can do in order to get things done. People in this community, it's not just about Minneapolis, it's not just about New York City. Even in this community, people are saying we can do a little bit better. And I know that I'm committed to it. I know the members on the Common Council are committed to it. And I don't want to argue about, you know, the semantics of this or that. I just want to get it done. And so I'm willing to support Celeste, Councilman Viola, Councilman Medical, other Councilman Rango to figure out what we can do, our chief, our mayor, to get things done. That being said, on a lighter note, I want to honor our essential workers. We're coming out of this COVID-19 a little bit stronger because what didn't kill us only made us stronger. So I just wanted to pull Resolution 5, a resolution in honor of our essential workers in the city of Utica, New York. I want to make this full council. Do I need a second on that?
We do need a second. Well, we need a second on the legislation, that's Neola, and then, if you'd like to make a motion to add full council.
Motion to add full council.
Does anyone oppose? DeBrango was the second on that. Any opposed to full council? No one's opposed. Full council's on this. You may read the legislation.
Resolution in honor of our essential workers in the city of Utica, New York, whereas the coronavirus, COVID-19, has been a pandemic that has greatly impacted our nation, state, and city. Such virus has caused much pain and devastation to many families and communities, including the city of Utica, where many families have experienced loss of loved ones and friends. Whereas Mayor Robert Palmieri, as the chief executive of the city of Utica, on March 24, 2020, proclaimed a state of emergency in response to this pandemic in hopes of keeping residents safe and ensuring that as a city, we took every precaution to flatten the curve and limit the spread of COVID-19. And whereas from that time until now, many people who were essential workers exhibited the greatest bravery and strength, left the comfort and safety of their homes to provide essential necessary service to the entire city of Utica, Oneida County, and Mohawk Valley. And whereas medical workers, firefighters, police officers, grocery store employees, restaurant owners, pharmaceutical stores, retail store employees, and many others whose names we do not know and whose efforts we do not see, show the spirit of Utica in selflessly working to keep a level of normalcy in the most uncertain circumstances. And whereas in the city of Utica, while we were so physically distant, we showed a united spirit of hope and optimism. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Utica Common Council honors and offers the deepest thanks to all of the essential workers during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you. Friends with the second. Bring this to a vote.
9 yeas adopted.
9 yeas adopted. Thank you.
I'd also like to pull resolutions 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 15 and place them into the committee as a whole. Those are the youth council appointments, and I'd like to place them into the committee as a whole.
We have a second from Miola. These were all read in their entirety and discussed in the caucus. There is a motion to place them in committee. Do we have a second to that motion as well? Okay, Bill is the second. Any opposed to placing council appointments in committee? Okay, and then could you please specify the committee of the whole, select committee of the whole that you're selecting for the committee?
The committee as a whole in general?
Sure.
In government.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I mean, they're all committee of the whole, but it's okay.
Yeah.
No one's opposed. They're in committee. Thank you.
And the final thing, we got the paving list. It is a great day for the members of Fort Hill. James Street is finally being paved.
Yeah.
You see cobblestone under that road, and finally it is being paved. It is a great day. Folks are happy. Hallelujah. I'm done, Mr. President.
Thank you. That cobblestone's been exposed since I was in high school. Yeah. Sixth District, Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First thing I want to do is, I want to thank all our graduating high school students in the city. It's been, I know it's very tough. They missed most of their senior year, the best, the last few months of your senior year are always the best time. I just hope that they move on, and one thing will be for sure, everybody will remember that they were the best 2020. So I just want to congratulate all of them. And then I'd like to pull ordinance number 12, intersection where staff required. Ordinance that section 2-16-358, Schedule C, intersections where staff required is amended to include the following. Leland Ave and Works Ave, northwest corner to control traffic traveling southerly on Leland Ave, Sewage Plant Road, and Works Ave, eastern curb line to control traffic traveling northerly on Sewage Plant Road. Works Ave and Leland Ave, southwest corner to control traffic easternly on Works Ave.
We have a second from DeBrango. Your votes?
9 is adopted.
Good. Anything else this evening?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
I do have a question here, still here in the packet. You have rescinded your legislation with feral cats, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
let's reflect that in the
No, Keith, I'm sorry, it's in committee, we're gonna have.
Oh, you do want to leave it in committee?
Right.
Okay. Okay, earlier you had mentioned in caucus, okay, never mind.
We're gonna keep it right there, and we're gonna change it.
All right, perfect. Councilman at large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I watched the social media, I guess there's some, a petition to remove Christopher Columbus from our parkway. And there's a petition, another petition saying to keep it. I'm not sure where this is all coming from. Statute cannot be removed unless the common council does it. And you can have all the petitions you want, but in my case, it's never gonna move. You gotta have 64,000 signatures on it to remove it. So I'm not sure what group is starting this, trying to put a copycat, or the leftist, socialist, national, I don't know what they are. But the way I see it, it should not be removed. This is part of American history, and that's just the way it is. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman at large, Jacob Medico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'm just going to rehash this firework issue has become a real problem. I just got to ask the people who let the fireworks right now. Use a little common courtesy for your neighbors. It's absolutely ridiculous. At 2 o'clock in the morning, people are lighting their fireworks up. And I'm not sure if the idiots that are actually lighting them off actually listen to this. Hopefully, maybe a couple of them will pass it on. But it's absolutely ridiculous what they're doing, and shame on them, because they're bothering other people on with their because of their enjoyment. So it's just totally ridiculous. Second, Mark, I'm going to admit to you, I just found out about the Christopher Columbus statue today, and I found it ridiculous. I don't know why we want to erase history. There's a lot of reasons it was put up there. As an Italian American, I'm very proud of it, that it's being there. Also, I'm going to be taking a resolution number 14. I'm going to be taking that out of committee for vote.
All right, so you are moving resolution 14.
So I'm going to move to take out.
Okay. All right, so Councilman Milivenico has moved resolution number 14. Is there a second? We have a second from Miola. read the proposed legislation.
Thank you. It's a long one. No, I'll do it. Commending the legislator and governor of New York State for repealing of New York civil rights law. Subject support of the New York State legislation repeal of New York State civil rights law, section 550A, relating to personal records of police officers, firefighters, and correction officers. I'd like to stop right there and just say something. As I was putting this together, this resolution together, by no means does it reflect the conduct of our public safety people here. I think this is on a broader sense that we see that the larger police forces out there possibly might not have the training and accreditation that we have. So I think for the greater whole of the United States of America and the people that live there, this is something that we have to take into account. I think Councilman DeBrango hit it right on the nose when he says that bar none, we have the best police and fire departments around. And I'll be more than happy to show anybody who wants to look at their records. And you'll just see promotions, job well done, and things of that nature. So let them have it. I'll give them any transparency they want, and I'm very proud of it, that we do have a police and fire department that we can show off. So I'll continue. Whereas in 1976, 50 was signed into law for the narrow purpose of preventing criminal defense attorneys from using personal records of law enforcement officers in cross-examination of these officers during criminal prosecution. Whereas the narrow exemption has unfairly been expanded to allow police departments to withhold from the public virtually any record that contains any information that could conceivably be used to evaluate the performance of a police officer. Whereas in Section 50 and its expanded use has become duplicate in nature, since in many ways the Freedom of Information Law, FOIL, already provides all public employees, including those covered under Article 50A, the protection necessary to guard against unwarranted invasions of privacy and disclosures that could jeopardize their security and safety. Whereas courts also have the ability to protect against improper cross-examination and determine if police records are admissible in a trial without the blanket denial of public access regarding law enforcement activity under Article 58. Whereas research by the State Committee of Open Government underscores this fatal error, namely that Article 58 creates a legal shield that prohibits disclosure, even when it's known that the misconduct has occurred, thereby undermining the goal of the FOIL, which is to make government agents and their employees accountable to the public. I mean, okay, I'll continue, but they do work for the public, and this information should be known. Whereas in recent days, the world has been horrified by the murder of George Floyd by a Minnesota police officer. Floyd was arrested for allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill to purchase cigarettes. In an excessive show of force, former police officer Derek Chauvin wedged his knee on the neck of George Floyd for a total of 8 minutes and 46 seconds, all occurring with his hands contently placed in his pockets, while the deceased pleaded with the officer, "I can't breathe." Whereas the Utica Police Department realized the inappropriate and inhumane behavior of Mr. Chauvin and stood in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter march on May 31st, standing up against police brutality. Whereas the repeal of Article 58 will remove any protection for these officers who, like Chauvin, abuse their authority while policing the streets and will longer provide cover to such officers who the public has lodged countless complaints against. Whereas the repeal of Article 58 will compel police departments to discipline rogue officers and make reforms within their units that encourage community policing and not authorize killing. Now, there be it resolved that the City of Utica Common Council supported and is grateful for the New York State Legislature repeal of Section 58 of the New York State Civil Rights Law by the New York State Legislature, and congratulations to the New York Governor for signing this in effect. Calls for reform by local police calls for reform of local policing taxes to embody more humane means of subduing individuals suspected of breaking the law, and directs the city clerk to send certified copies of this resolution to the District Attorney's Office, to the County of Utica County, Governor Andrew Cuomo, the Speaker of the New York State Assembly, the Majority Leader of the New York State Senate, and Minority Leader of the New York State Assembly, and to all other local groups and regional groups interested in bringing about changes that would improve the manner and process of police officers' interactions with black men and women in America. So I'd like to move to adopt this.
Okay, we already had a second. Well, are you guys requesting the floor or second?
Would the councilman be amenable to making this full council?
I don't think it'd be up to the council, and I'm not sure if we would be able to.
I would like to come, if you'd be amenable to me coming on as a co-sponsor, I'd be honored to do
I
so.
would invite anybody who would like to be co-sponsor.
I would love to be a co-sponsor.
All right, so, show of hands, so we can just write down the sponsors. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Council at Large DeBrango.
No.
Williamson, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Your votes.
Eight yeas adopted.
Can I qualify my vote?
Yes, you may, yes.
I agree with what the governor did with this bill, and I will support it. It's already passed. There's just some items in it that I'm uncomfortable with at this time, so that's the only reason that I'm not going along with it. I'm going to support the mayor and he goes, and I agree with it. There's just some parts of it that I'm not comfortable with right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Do you have anything else, Councilman Lomarico?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Councilman at Large Frank DeBrango, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think that I want to discuss fireworks. I know way embedded at night, you're hearing boom, boom, boom all around the state. If you get a chief, I can tell you, if you enforce that noise law, go ahead. As many tickets you can, maybe it'll stop. You know, at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, you still hear it going off. And us living in the valley, you hear it actually throughout the whole city. So that's the perpetrators, that'd be great. I also want to congratulate the graduates this year of 2020, Notre Dame, Utica College, Mont Valley Community College, Proctor. It's been a tough year for all of them. After the school year, they had to do online classes online. Very, very unusual year. But the one thing they always can remember, especially the high school graduates, when you're out there, when you're in high school, it's going to be something that your 10-year reunion you're going to be able to talk about. It's going to make history. And one thing that you always can remember is you're always going to have friends for the rest of your life during your high school career. And I still have them today, and I'm sure all you come from persons as well. So always remember that in the high school kids out there listening. I know they took away your graduation, your normal graduation, and take away your friendships. With that said, I want to take out a committee ordinance number 5 regarding towing legislation.
Okay.
Ordinance amending chapter 2-28 of the city code regarding towing and records. Now, this is about 10, 12.
Yeah, we're not reading it.
I'm just going to give you a little highlight of it. I'll give you some highlights of it.
Well, please read the first, the title, ordained, make sure you highlight what you would like, and then the last section. That way we can.
Okay, ordinance amending chapter 2-28 city code regarding towing and records. Ordained chapter 2-28 of the code ordinance of the city of Utica as amended hereby further amended. Read as follows. And there's several items in there. Let me just give you a synopsis of it here. The fees, we adjusted the fees. There's a $50 application fee. What this is, the city of Utica has a list of tow companies that provide services in the city of Utica in case there's an accident or a need of a tow in the city. So they want a rotation list. So there's a $50 application fee. It's up to the chief of the department to accept or approve it. And then there's a $150 fee for the first tow truck and then $25 fee for more vehicles. And that's on a yearly basis. Towing within the city, we try to keep it a very good rate. I think it was a going rate of $175. And adding extra fees, the use of specialized equipment, we allowed the tow truck operators to do that as well. They have to pull out a winch, or if the vehicle is 100 feet off the road, you know, it does take some time and take some knowledge on how to get that vehicle, you know, on a tow truck. And also we adjusted the payment plan. The old legislation didn't have use of credit card machines and things of that nature. So we wanted to at least put that in there. They must have credit card machines available for payment, as well as we adjusted the storage fee. Used to be $65 for inside storage fee and $45 for outside, but it's $45 across the board. That's just a little synopsis of what we adopted. I just want to say we did meet with the tow truck operators. Most of them did attend our virtual meeting. We got a lot of input from them, the chief as well. Chief Noonan was there. It was a great discussion. That was our first meeting. The second meeting, we met with all my colleagues and Corporation Council and the chief as well. And we went through every item that we thought was necessary to change, and we've come to an agreement on all the items. So I would like my colleagues to support this. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second to pull that from committee?
Hey.
Were you seconding the legislation? All right, he had the second. Yeah, no, it's Miola. He was like this for quite some time. All right, any opposed to pulling that from committee? Okay, if there's no debate, your votes please on that piece of legislation.
9 yeas adopted.
Okay, is there anything else from the floor at this time?
That is all, Mr. President.
One last thing, I want to back up.
Turn your mic on.
I want to back up what Councilman Williamson said and Councilman Lenico. I truly agree with them that we should not be pulling any statues down as part of history, and just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you. All right, so before I call for a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to thank everybody for cooperating. We had to establish some procedures and guidelines. They were followed. Please follow the procedures when you exit the building. Have a great evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
I just want to tell you, 4th of July is going to come and go. There is nothing in those noise ordinance about fireworks. That's